everybody, it's episode 329 of PodQuest.
Hey!
It is Wednesday, December 9th, 2020. I am Chris. With me is Druten.
Hello.
And Walnut.
Hi.
How you guys doing?
I'm doing alright.
I'm alright. I'm pretty good.
It's good. It's always good. It's December, you know? Things are getting colder. Did you guys see the snow earlier?
Yeah.
Like 5 minutes of it?
I looked out the window, saw the snow, because where I'm seated, I have 4 windows around me. So I looked out all 4 windows, saw the snow, looked over at my sister, and said, "It's snowing." And she said, "What?" I said that 3 times, and she said, "What?" all 3 times. Then I opened the window, and she's like, "It doesn't snow in New Jersey."
I mean, last year we got, a quarter of an inch total, I think?
Probably.
I don't know. I read, an article the other day from, the NBC weather guy did, an interview with somebody. And they were asking him, which I never noticed this before, ABC and NBC, competed for the longest time with their, seasonal forecasts, where, in November, they would put out, what they think the weather is going to be for December, January, February, and March.
Yeah.
And the dude at NBC is just yeah, I'm done. It's never right. Global warming fucked us. I'm not gonna keep doing this and being wrong about it. But he pointed out that, last year, we got, like I said, a quarter of an inch or 3/4 of an inch of snow through the whole season. And that's absurd.
Yeah.
That is no snow.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. I kind of don't mind if we get a little bit of snow this year. Because I don't have to drive anywhere, regularly. So, as long as it happens on a day where I don't have to drive, sure, I'll take a little snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Drew, you've been trying to sell Pokemon cards. Tell us about Pokemon cards.
Alright, so my brother and a bunch of his dumbass friends on Discord apparently just recently got into buying a shit ton of Pokemon cards and then video streaming them all opening their packs together and hanging out, just doing that shit.
Oh, what about fucking nerds?
Well, apparently, I don't know if it was the first time they opened them. Richie, your friend Paul is in there, in that group.
Yeah. Yes.
So, one of the first nights they did it, the one guy opened 2 packs and got cards worth $350 and $300 in them, and then so now they're all just fucking buying shit tons of cards and opening them
With no return on investment.
Pretty much. Well, I was talking to my brother's one friend, and he bought $200 worth of card packs and got $170 worth of cards in them. But that led me to realize, oh shit, 6 or 7 years ago, maybe at this point, I just bought a shit ton of random, old ass Pokemon cards off, eBay and shit. And, they're all in pretty darn good condition. And turns out some of them are actually worth, a fair chunk of money, potentially.
Oh, so these aren't your childhood Pokemon cards. These are, one that you got just, recently, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to my childhood Pokemon. I'm 99% sure they got stolen out of the house in Woodland at some point.
That sucks.
I mean, that unfortunately sounds accurate, too.
I still have my childhood Pokemon.
Yeah. I had my PlayStation 2 stolen at one point. I'm pretty sure I know who did it, but, it's forever ago. Doesn't really matter. But, yeah, a couple years ago, I was you know what? I kind of wish I had just, that first era of Pokemon. And I have most of the first 150 Pokemon in cards now. And, I was I know I have a binder full of cards somewhere. And went and found it, and, I was just telling Cobb before you got back on, Richie, I have a Hollow Lapras card from the Fossil set.
Nice.
In the last 2 days, it's sold for $8, $9, $13, $30, and $150. It's all over the place.
That's not bad. That's pretty sweet.
But even
Pokemon cards are crazy stock value cards.
Yeah, and I have a first edition Machamp Hollow card in here. Even the original base set Pikachu will sell for $3 or $4 a card, and I have 7 of them, 8 of them. So if I sold them at $4 a piece, that's $32 right there for just a basic ass fucking Pikachu card.
Yeah.
I know. I still have cards. I think I have a binder of them in the basement or something, and then I'm pretty sure I have Tupperware containers full of them at my parents' house.
And then I have a couple random first edition of non-hollow things. Like, I just realized I have a first edition Firo and a first edition Arbok. And so, yeah, I might actually spend the time and go listen to this shit on.
So how do you know they're first edition?
They literally say first edition on them.
Oh, okay. I never noticed. I haven't looked at a Pokemon card in probably 20 years.
I
like,
will
really
send you
looked
a
at
picture
one.
in the Facebook chat there. But yeah, it has a little icon that says first edition on.
Also, one of you has a playful kitten, and I think that's funny.
I'll send the picture later. I have an Amazon box. I got all my Christmas gifts through Amazon, obviously. And I got one today, and I threw the box down just to see what was in there, and forgot to clean it up before we started to record. And he's jumping in and out of the box.
Oh, so is that crinkling sound like the stuff in the box?
He's chewing on the plastic of the toy that came in the box.
Okay, so I thought one of you had, because I know, Drew, sometimes you keep your one cat back there with you because he doesn't get along well with others. I thought one of them just had like one of those like foil balls or something like that and was just like going crazy with it.
I mean, some of that also might have been me flipping the pages in this.
No, like this was very much like I could tell this was a cat playing. And I just thought it was funny. I'm like, man, one of y'all has like a crazy cat right now. But yeah, I never noticed. I probably have some that say that first edition on the side there. I never noticed that before.
But yeah, check your cards. Don't want clutter around. You might have a fair amount of money sitting around.
I don't know that I have necessarily have rare cards, but I have multiple of the Egyptian Mew that you got for going to see the Pokemon the first movie.
Right, those are worthless.
No, I know that because they gave out 1 billion of them.
Yeah.
I had the other movie card was too.
I think we went over this before, because Egyptian Mew was the second movie. The first.
Oh, that's right.
The first movie were the 4 evolution, or I think it was like a Pikachu, a Dragonite, Gyarados, and a something else. I can't remember, but they had different artwork. Me, my brother, and my sister each had each had all 4 of those. Because my dad delivered to the theater like the boxes of the movies and the cards and the promotional material, and so when he showed up, the guy who ran the theater was like, "You have kids, right?" Dad's like, "Yeah." So he's like, "Here, grab one of each for your kids."
That was kind of cool.
Yeah, so I have them. I
do vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
You telling us that before too.
Yeah. And they were all like, "Oh, they're going to be worth so much money." It was, no, they gave them away per ticket, and they sold how many tickets, and however many fucking tickets didn't sell, they probably just gave them away. They're not worth shit. They made so many of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I see one that sold 9 days ago, certified gem mint, sold for $600.
An Egyptian Mew?
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, if you still happen to have it sealed, a bunch of those in the last couple weeks have sold for $30+.
I'm pretty sure I still have one fully sealed.
You could probably easily get at least $30 for it.
I definitely do not, because fuck that. I like to take things out of the wrapper.
Yeah, but yeah.
Man, Pokemon cards, who would have thought?
Yeah, and actually just like a couple minutes ago in that the Discord chat there, whatever the one series of cards apparently just went back up on stock on Walmart's website, and a bunch of them apparently went to jump in and grab it, because that has a Rainbow Charizard card, which the one guy got, that's worth like $400 or something.
Wow, that's crazy.
$400.
That's insane.
Now, how much are Yu-Gi-Oh cards worth? I'm pretty sure I have them lying around too.
I don't know. There's probably some worth something.
Yeah,
I don't think I ever had very good Yu-Gi-Oh cards, though.
That's the thing, though. A lot of the cards that we have, because we started playing and doing Yu-Gi-Oh from early on, a lot of them aren't even competition legal anymore. Like Monster fucking Reborn is not competition legal. At least the last I heard, this was a couple years ago. The rules might have changed back, but yeah. So you might actually have some cards because you have Gen 1 cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that always kind of happens, but it's still one of those, it's like, these cards are just kind of old at this point, and, they're still in good condition because they haven't been touched in 20 years, but... Yeah, and I'm not surprised about a lot of those Yu-Gi-Oh cards not being competition legal, because they basically replaced them with different versions of the same card, or with new cards that do the same thing but that fit the more modern rules. Because I know the same thing happens with Magic cards and even Pokemon cards. Like, you can't use your original series like Charizard anymore. Like, that thing is not legal.
That's
Although
dumb.
one of the recent sets of Pokemon cards is actually just re-releases of the first.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I forget what I want to say it's called Evolution series or something. But the guy's been opening a bunch of them, and like literally he got a bunch of the cards, and I'm like, oh shit, I have that card.
Which,
Like,
isn't that now the second time they've done that?
Maybe. Wouldn't shock me if
because
that's the case.
I remember, if I remember correctly, they released a set when we were still collecting them called First Edition 2. Very, very unique and informative name, because it's exactly what it is. It's the second release of the first edition.
Well, there was Series 2, but that was... I mean, there were, like, overlapping Pokemon, but it was different cards. Like, it was, like, there might have been some of the Pokemon that were the same, but it would have had different abilities on it, and different HP. Whereas, like, these are literally just the first.
I remember it was, like, a re-release of the first set, and it had, like, like, under one of the tags where it would tell you, like, if the card was special, it had, like, a 2 on it because it was first edition re-release or something. I'd have to go back through my cards. I know Eric had a bunch of them.
I mean, I have a bunch of them in this binder.
I don't know. It's been so long. But it's just something that I kind of remember.
Well, maybe you misremember. You ever think of that?
Maybe.
It's been a long time. Well, anyway, I don't know if you guys saw this on Twitter or not, but PAX is already planning their shows for next year.
I did.
Good for them.
Not all of them. Not all of them, though. They're not going to do a PAX South in 2021, which isn't that surprising. Actually, it's a little surprising, because that's the show with the least footprint anyway, so it's probably the safest. But yeah, they announced dates for everything else. So PAX East, West, Australia, and Unplugged. So PAX East right now is going to be June 3rd through the 6th, which is 3-ish months later than usual.
Mm-hmm.
So they're at least giving themselves like a little bit of a buffer there that they normally don't have. PAX West is going to be September 3rd through the 6th. PAX Australia actually doesn't have a date yet. And then Unplugged will be December 10th through the 12th.
Okay. I don't think that's too crazy, because from what I'm hearing and seeing, it's projected, as long as enough people get the vaccine when it becomes available, that by May-ish, we should be within a close to herd immunity status, to where a June convention wouldn't be too terrible.
See, I think June is still going to be too early.
Well, yeah, you're talking about the United States, where we don't understand to not go outside to stop the virus. That, like, people aren't going to get the fucking vaccine. I have a friend who does some of the vaccine clinical trials, and when they go in and they get, like, tested to see if they have the antibodies or if they have the virus or whatever, and say, for instance, 16 people will go in saying, and they'll tell them, you are eligible for the vaccine trial. One person of the 16 will consent to it.
Wow.
Yeah, like...
trials are a little different. Like, I can at least understand people not necessarily wanting to get in on a trial.
Yeah,
Yeah, but with what this is, I'm just surprised that the number's that low.
Yeah. It's because a lot of the people are like, they still think that the virus is fake, or they still turn around and say, like, well, if I get sick, I want the Trump treatment, the Regeneron, because, like, he recovered from the virus in a day, so apparently that's all you need. This is getting too political for us, but, like, it's just, based on current projections, I don't think a June is a bad call. But it is still cutting it close, and if I do end up going to things in June, I will still be wearing a mask.
I will not go to anything that early.
I mean, the NLL season is projected to start in April, and I'll fucking be going to almost regardless. Although
you're
I don't
one of 12
100%
people, so
fair.
Yeah.
I
I
and
don't.
like
know
the other 11 people are on the team, so you're safe.
I don't know their plan on. I mean, it's all obviously going to be dependent on each area's protocols. Like Philadelphia might not have that arena open, so like they might not play any home games in front of fans at the very beginning.
And we also don't know what Biden's plans are going to be, because he says on January 20th that things are going to change and he's going to be taking a different approach than Trump is towards the virus. So things might change and we might have a handle on it a lot sooner than what we have projections right now, because we don't know what Biden's planning.
Given the discourse of this country and how aggressively against everything everybody is, we're not going to have a handle on this until at least this time next year.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but
You figure there's going to be tons of people that refuse to take the vaccine for one reason or another. And, like, I get it. Like, I don't want the first round of the vaccine because...
Well, I mean, none of us are going to get it in the first round.
No.
Exactly.
We'll be lucky if we get it before April.
Yeah. But, and I'm fine with that. Like, I don't necessarily want to be that first round of them because you don't know how it's going to react to the masses. Like, they are testing it as much as they can, but this is still a thing that they had to rush through development and approval because of the situation. And, like, I'm happy to get it 6 months later when, like, we see how it's going to react to people.
Yeah, I mean, like, I for one, am going to go get it, but I know, like, we're not going to really have that chance in March.
It's going to go to first responders, then the elderly, then the younger, and then us, basically.
I don't think that it's going to go to the younger. I don't think.
Yeah, no.
As of right now, the younger, anyone under 16 can't even get the vaccine.
Yeah, so
Like
it goes to like. Yeah, it's like first responders, then the elderly and the high risk.
Yeah.
And then everyone else.
Yeah, and by the time it goes to everyone else and, like, people around the world have been getting it for 3 months, it's like, okay, cool, I might get sick for a couple of days, but, like, otherwise, like, everything seems good.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I don't know how much you've looked into this, and based on what I've heard, Fake Doctors, Real Friends had the real JD on an episode last week, and they talked a lot about the vaccine. The vaccine shouldn't really make you sick, because it's not the normal vaccine that we know of. It's not like an innate dead version of the virus. It is things to trick your body into thinking that you have the protein that they need to attack to create the antibodies to be able to recognize that protein if you do get the virus. It is the craziest thing with this vaccine.
But, I mean, injecting anything into you can have a reaction. So, like, just because it's not like the flu shot where it's giving you, like, a strain of the virus, doesn't mean that it can't just have, like, a bad reaction to a person.
Yeah.
And
also, that's only accurate. What you were saying, Richie, is only accurate about Moderna and...
Yeah, it's Moderna and one other. I can't remember.
Pfizer's vaccines,
Pfizer.
which are the two that are, like, Pfizer's probably getting approved tomorrow and Moderna next week. But, like, AstraZeneca, they took a cold virus, basically, and turned it in deactivated COVID.
Yeah.
which is insane. Like, what the fuck, scientists?
Well,
What
you know
the
what
fuck?
I mean, the what the fuck about it is Moderna and Pfizer basically had the vaccine done in 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's nuts. The only vaccine I suggest you not take is the one from Russia, because they got approval for that in, like, less than a month or something like that. It was quick.
Yeah.
I mean, and I wouldn't take anything from Russia anyway, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, like, they've even shipped that out of Russia.
Yeah, no, I don't think we will ever see that over here.
I think the only person who got it was Putin, and so it was probably fake, but still. But anyway, PAX is planning their shows next year, which it's nice to hear. It like brings some normalcy.
And, like, yeah, by PAX Unplugged, like, if everything has sort of normalized by then, I will happily go to that show.
Oh, but here's
Yeah,
the thing I'll happily go, but I am pushing for people to normalize mask wearing, because I will not be going to public events without a mask for the foreseeable future. Just because it's an added precaution. Like concerts, conventions, food shopping, I'm going to be wearing a mask still.
See, I don't know if I could handle a mask at a concert depending on, like, the venue. Like, if it's, like, an Electric Factory sort of thing where you're crammed in with people, like, those are already hard to breathe in. Like, covering your mouth and nose makes it even harder.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, if you're at, like, whatever the Tweeter Center is now, I can never fucking keep track of that place.
I think it's BB&T right now, but I'm pretty sure BB&T got bought.
Yeah, so it's probably changing.
Man, I hope they got bought by Blockbuster and we're just fucking going full circle. But yeah, like something like that where you're just sitting in a seat, like yeah, like why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So what? East is June, you said, right?
Yeah. So PAX Boston is the beginning of June. PAX Seattle is the beginning of September, and then Unplugged will be in the beginning of December.
Yeah, Boston is shaky, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if any of them gets canceled or switched to a digital thing, Boston.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that's still on the kind of teetering point about whether or not, like, vaccines will be out there and enough of a capacity for things like that to happen.
Yeah, I think fall will be the sweet spot. Like,
yeah, I think West safe to happen when scheduled, and then Unplugged for sure.
Anyway, though, moving away from that pseudo-political side, DC announced a bunch of their books that are going to be coming to shelves in March. So I know we talked about it like a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago at this point. Jesus. In January and February, all of the DC books are going to be put on hold for those 2 months, and it's all going to be a new line called Future State. Marvel did something like this back in the 90s. They did something like this multiple times. That's what Age of Apocalypse was. That's what Heroes Reborn were, where like they just basically flip everything and tell like a different story set in a different place. Mm-hmm. And in this case, Future State is sometime in the future of the DC universe. But not like the far-flung future. Like, the characters, like, Bruce Wayne is still around. He's not Batman in it, but like, but he's also not like old man Bruce Wayne from Batman Beyond. He's somewhere in the middle. So after that happens, all the books come back. But they're not necessarily coming back as the same ongoing stories. So I have the list of them in front of me real quick. So they're launching a new Swamp Thing, which is the first ongoing Swamp Thing book since the previous series ended in 2015. And the previous series was like super critically acclaimed and everything like that. But he's just one of those characters that I don't think the books quite sell enough for an ongoing to last for a really long time. So they've run it until the sales don't make sense, and then they sort of like put him into hibernation for a while, have him in like some team books, do like the occasional like mini series, but they don't pump out the ongoings for Swamp Thing too often. And judging by the artwork for the cover, it looks like they might be doing a thing where they separate Swamp Thing and Alec Holland again. The cover that they show is like Alec Holland like doubled over and Swamp Thing sort of like coming out of his back. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. The last time Swamp Thing was in a comic was like last month in Justice League Dark, where he was dead and kind of just like he was a few like pieces of cells left over that they found after he died.
There's just no love for something.
No, not really, unfortunately. Speaking of Justice League Dark, that book will be continuing after Future State. And yeah, we don't really know anything else about it. I also put some of this in the wrong spot. Whoops. It's going to be continuing. They haven't confirmed whether it's going to be like a new number one or if it'll just pick up right from where it left off or not. So we'll have to wait to see on that one. Wonder Woman is going to get a whole new creative team.
Okay.
And it looks like, judging on the cover that they released, it looks like it's going to be more ensemble than it was before. The Wonder Woman books tend to be very much just like, it's just her and like a handful of supporting characters that kind of like dip in and out depending on what the particular arc calls for.
Yeah.
This cover shows her like at Themyscira with all of the other Amazons, a bunch of other supporting characters, as well as all of the different Wonder Girls that have like been around. So like Donna Troy and Cassie Sandmarks, and the two new ones that are going to be in Future State, Yara and Nubia, are both in there. So they're probably going to have something to do with this book prior to however they become Wonder Woman in the future. They're also rebranding Teen Titans as Teen Titans Academy, which is very much a Marvel thing from a few years ago too. Marvel had the Avengers Academy like I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, where from the sounds of it, it's going to be the same deal where the younger generation of heroes are going to have a place to sort of like train and like learn how to be heroes the right way. Which that is what the Future State book will be. It's going to show that academy already kind of up and running, whereas this one looks like it might be like the origin of that and how it happens. I'm curious to see how that goes because the most recent Teen Titans book just ended, and like the team didn't break up necessarily, but they're definitely not in a great place right now. So I'm not really sure how that's all gonna get wrapped up for a new series to kind of take over. Mm-hmm. They're doing a book called New Green Lantern, which is replacing the book that's just called Green Lantern. It's a new team, so not really sure what it's going to be about, but the most recent Green Lantern series was just Hal Jordan, whereas like there's like 20 different Earth Green Lanterns at this point that they can focus on. So hopefully this book goes back to kind of the Green Lantern Corps look and like shows us more of the lanterns rather than just focusing on the one.
Yeah.
Let's see. They are relaunching Suicide Squad. It just ended, I think, a month or two ago. So it's going to be a new team, new all that. It looks like they might be trying to base this more on, not base it on the movie, but use the cast from the new movie. Because Peacemaker, which is John Cena's character, is kind of like front and center on the cover.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the first iteration of the Suicide Squad since 2011 that Harley Quinn is not on the team.
Sweet. Like, I like Harley, but I'm kind of over her.
See, Harley's good in the comics. Like, I could care less about her in the movie universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Detective Comics is just gonna be continuing its numbering, but it's gonna get a new team. It's actually the team is gonna be the same one from Future State, so they'll just kind of, whatever story they're telling that takes place in the future, they'll get to actually set that up in Detective Comics.
Okay.
Batman Superman is going to do the same thing. It's just going to continue with the Future State team, replacing the existing. They are launching a new Harley Quinn series. The last one ended with issue like 75 back in August. And this one's going to pick up with the team that does the Harley Quinn Future State book, just like a bunch of the others. And then Batman is just going to keep being Batman for the foreseeable future. Yeah. Same team, no changes there or anything like that. We haven't heard definitive answers on a bunch of other books. Like, there's no Superman books that were announced yet, unless you count Batman Superman. I know Bendis is wrapping up his run on Superman in Action Comics, so something is going to change with those at the very least. We also didn't see like your Nightwings, your Batgirls, any of those sort of like supporting Bat Family or Superman Family books in the mix. Mm-hmm. Also, no Flash.
That's weird. You would think he's one of their like more flagship heroes that like.
I don't know that his books necessarily are though.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know anything about comics and DC Comics. I mean, it's nice to see that they're, like, releasing a lot of these new things and getting, like, trying to get a new, like, lineup of comics because with all the, layoffs and such going on over the past year. But it's, yeah, I don't know enough about DC to know why they're not doing a, Flash comic.
So this doesn't mean that they're not doing one. This just means that they haven't announced anything.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Huh. So this is breaking news. Nothing to do with that at all. Funimation is going to acquire Crunchyroll.
Nice.
Which means Sony is buying Crunchyroll.
Okay. Yeah. I thought they already... What? Did they buy Funimation earlier this year?
So Sony purchased Funimation a couple years ago. There was a Crunchyroll Funimation partnership for a while that ended earlier this year. Where they were basically sharing distribution, streaming rights. Funimation would stream the dubbed version while Crunchyroll was streaming the subbed version of a lot of shows. But yeah, I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest with you.
I wonder how that's going to play out with like HBO, with WB, because HBO Max has a Crunchyroll.
I imagine, so that's probably a contract, so that will, I assume, just continue on as is for the remainder of the contract.
Yeah, they don't have a lot on there, but they do have a Crunchyroll thing on there.
Okay, well, yeah, so a month ago, it was announced that Sony was buying Crunchyroll from Warner for $1 billion.
Okay, so this was actually, I know it was like in the works and all, but like Funimation just recently like tweeted out that like it's happening, so it's official.
Okay.
I don't know how that's going to change anything. I don't know if they're going to wrap themselves into one platform or what. I fucking hope not, because the Funimation platform is straight garbage. That thing barely fucking works half the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Crunchyroll actually just generally works. It's not the best interface, but it functions.
Yeah.
But yeah, that should be interesting, because Crunchyroll has started doing some of their own, well, I don't know that they're necessarily doing their own dubs per se, but they have been releasing dubs on their platform for shows that aren't picked up by Funimation. So we'll see if more of that or less of that happens, or if Funimation just gets more dubs this way. It's certainly going to change like the seasonal anime, because that stuff's generally been split between the two platforms for the most part. Like, Funimation will get stuff, even if they're not dubbing it, they'll still get like the simulcast that's like sub only, and Crunchyroll will get their own basket of them. If they're both the same platform, it stands to reason that you should be able to just watch them anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a thing that happened. Man, why are you adding stuff to the spreadsheet in just all sorts of the wrong places?
I figured that was probably one of the better places.
Video games are at the bottom, buddy.
Yeah, but I'm talking about video games multiple times at the bottom. Look, it's just splitting it up. If you don't want to do it there, you don't have to do it there.
I'm not doing it there, damn it. I'm putting it down at the bottom. Not at the bottom, but you know what I mean. Just gonna put it here for now. We'll come back to that. Sorry. I got distracted by all the boldness. You bolded the whole thing. I'm just like, why the fuck is all this bolded?
It just naturally bolded as I was typing it. I typed it on my phone.
Oh.
I didn't really care about formatting. I typed it on my phone. I swear
I did it to make sure that I saw it.
No, I swear I put it in the spreadsheet, but apparently I didn't put it in the spreadsheet. So
did you do it from if you add it to the spreadsheet, do you think you did it from your phone?
Maybe. I can't remember. It was yesterday when I did it.
The mobile version of Sheets is really bad about saving stuff. You have to really make sure that you hit the check mark at the top, or it just, because it happens to me all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Like, I've gotten to the point where now I do all that, I hit the check mark, and then I open the sheet up again to make sure that the changes are.
Yeah.
But anyway, like, circling back to the comic book stuff. Yeah, just because the series isn't actually announced right now doesn't mean that it won't happen. Like, solicitations are not out for March yet, so this was something that DC announced outside of that. It may be that the books that aren't listed here that are not ending will just continue with exactly the same creative teams and numbering that they already have. Odds are they only mentioned Batman in here because Detective Comics is changing teams, and Batman is DC's flagship book for the most part.
Yeah.
But the main reason I included this in here is a couple weeks ago we had talked about that speculation that Industry Insider guy had about DC just cutting all of their titles and really only releasing, 12 books a year, or 12 books a month, I'm sorry, and just having that focus strictly on the Batman and Superman families.
Mm-hmm.
This obviously is not the case.
Yeah.
If they're, they're announcing books for characters that haven't had books in half a decade with Swamp Thing. And they're continuing books like Justice League Dark, which I don't know the sales on that book, but it seems like I wouldn't expect that book to be like a huge seller for them compared to some of the other ones that aren't on this list.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that probably, like you were saying before, Rich, it's probably bodes well for this stuff.
And it's good to hear. Like, alright, they're adding more again. They're getting back into the swing. They had rough times, but it's nice to know that they're not completely falling apart, potentially.
Yeah, exactly. So just to keep the comic books going, I finally caught up on all my comics. In June, I was behind by about 500 issues. 6 months later, I am completely caught up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's a shame, like, I was reading certain monthlies every month they came out. But there were other books that, like, I'm like, oh, well, this is like a mini-series or whatever. I'm just going to wait till all of the issues come out and then read them all.
No, which makes sense. That would be something I would do with certain miniseries.
And, like, some of them were, they were technically maxi-series. So, like, they were 12 issues. But, like, they were confirmed 12 issues. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to wait for these to all come out and then read them. And, you do that enough times and all of a sudden you have hundreds of books just sitting there waiting to be read. And now, to be fair, like, most of my books are digital. I only buy a handful physical still because I've just been buying them for so long.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about a handful of the really, really good ones. And some of these are like all the way out now. So like you can buy them as trades or the issues or anything like that.
Yeah. Going through your list, there's really only two that I'm interested in, but yeah, I mean that's a big list.
You say that now, but when I'm done talking about them, you may actually be interested in all of them.
I don't know.
Maybe not the last one because it's an event. But so the first one on this list is Spider-Man Life Story. This was a 6-issue limited series that I think I might have talked about it when it was announced like a couple years ago. This also ran in 2019, so it's been over for quite a while. You can buy like a trade for it now, I believe. Mm-hmm. Every issue takes place in a different decade since Spider-Man was introduced.
Okay.
So rather than like your normal Spider-Man comic where like, yes, it has been running since 1962, but Pete has really only aged about 10 years. This is real time essentially. So Pete became Spider-Man in 62 just like he did in the comics, but by 2019, he's in his 70s or 80s or what have you.
Yeah.
And like all of the heroes are like when you see other heroes throughout this, like they get older, they die. Like by the end of the story, like your Captain Americas, your Iron Mans and stuff, like they're either dead or incredibly old men.
Captain America doesn't age.
I mean, we saw in Endgame that eventually he does.
He ages slower though, like.
Yeah, but you figure so he still got uniced in the 60s, just like he would have in the original comics. So, 50, 60 plus, I mean, almost 60 years later, like, that's 60 on top of his, like, 30. So, he does get old.
That's a lie. Fake news.
But it was really cool because they took the stories that happened in those eras and made them a story for that age's Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. So, like the book opens up in the 60s, and it jumps around a couple different times. Like, so, like, it's not all just in one year, but I believe it's like 64 is when it opens up, and Flash Thompson's going off to war. Like, he enlisted for the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of sort of dialogue in there about, like, what is this war? Like, should Spider-Man go, like, he has powers, like, he could help. Should he go help that? And then, like, you find out, like, in the next issue that Flash actually died over in Vietnam.
Okay.
And like that impacts Peter because Flash only went because of Spider-Man. Because Flash is Spider-Man's biggest fan. He didn't know that Pete was Spider-Man though. But like, the Green Goblin's in it. Like the whole like the Green Goblin knowing who Pete is and all that happens. But he doesn't kill Gwen. Like this story, like Gwen lives like past that point. Like they end up married and everything for a while. Like they change things. The clone stuff still happens. Like they it's Chip Zdarsky wrote the book, and like he managed to weave like these stories together so that like something that happened in the actual 70s in the books happened to Spider-Man in the 70s, but then like the Clone Saga, it comes back up in the 90s.
Yeah.
Which like I knew the story beats, but I was always surprised when I saw them happening. Mm-hmm. And like saw like the little twists that he put onto them.
Yeah.
All the way up to like the present day when like you see a Miles Morales in 2019 that his life is different than what it is in the current books because Pete isn't just 10 years older than him. He's 60 years older than him or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably one of the best Spider-Man books I've read in a long time, and I didn't like when I sat down to read it, I actually just read all 6 issues back to back. Like I didn't intend to do that, but it was just like, well, I need to know what happens next.
Yeah.
I need to, and like the books all end on like cliffhangers, but because they're picking up a decade later, you're not seeing the direct outcomes. Mm-hmm. You're kind of like hearing about it. Even by the 80s, it's like, I guess if he's like 20 in the 60s, so he'd be in his 40s in the 80s. Secret Wars happens, and he goes off to fight and gets like the symbiote costume and everything. And they like wrapped all that in along with like the Cold War that would have been happening at that point. And what happens to the world when suddenly all of the American superheroes disappear? Because that's what Secret Wars was. Yeah. All the superheroes got pulled into another world to fight for like this godlike being's entertainment.
Yeah.
So yeah, like just super interesting story. Definitely worth checking out if you like Spider-Man but don't necessarily care about all the continuity stuff. Mm-hmm. The next book was Harleen, which it's a DC Black Label book. So it's like a prestige format, which means like it's a larger like dimension book. It's only 3 issues. It also came out last year. It's basically it's a version of Harley's becoming Harley.
Yeah.
So it's her still as a psychiatrist. She's actually, like, when the story starts, she is not even working at Arkham Asylum yet.
Okay.
So this, like, shows her getting the job to go to Arkham Asylum and how she's actually doing it for her research in trying to figure out what makes people become the monsters that, like, Batman's villains are, essentially.
Yeah.
And through that whole thing, she develops the weird relationship of, like, obsession with the Joker that we know from, like, her appearances in the movies and comics and stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, she doesn't become Harley Quinn until the end of the book. So you have, 90-ish pages of her being, like, this psychiatrist that, like, she is both trying to help these people, but also dealing with, like, her own demons. And it's a really interesting book. Yeah. Really interesting. I don't want to give too much away because, like, it's not like a superhero thing where, like, everyone's fighting. Like, Batman shows up, like, twice in it, and it's not really to punch. Well, I'm sorry. He does show up once to punch people, but otherwise, it's a very kind of, like, grounded look at this stuff for the most part.
You ever think about the fact that Batman's a bad person because he punches the mentally unstable?
I mean, that's been like an internet, like, meme theory sort of thing of, like, how, like, Batman fights, like, the mentally unstable, but also, what are the odds that Batman is just actually in the insane asylum himself?
Yeah,
and all these people that he fights aren't really villains, they're just what his mind turns them into.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
But yeah, that's another one. That one was I read that one actually a few days ago, whereas I just read Life Story yesterday. I ended up looking on Amazon, and I had that digitally, but I saw the trade of it was on sale for $12. So I bought the Harleen trade just because it was such a good book.
Mm-hmm.
And then this next one just actually finished up today. It started coming out last September, so September 2019. But then, because of who worked on it and, like, their timelines plus COVID and everything screwing things up, it had a bunch of delays kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
But it's Spider-Man, and it was written by J.J. Abrams and his son Henry Abrams.
Yeah.
And this was another, like, alternate reality Spider-Man story where, I mean, this was all over the internet when it first came out. In the very first issue, Spider-Man is fighting a new villain who kills MJ.
Okay.
So, like, right at the beginning of the story, MJ's dead. And Pete actually loses an arm. So he's one-armed Spider-Man. But they have a child at the time. Like, they have a young son. And after all that happens in the fallout, it seems like for some reason in this world, like, the superheroes all go away. I never really picked up totally if they're all dead or, like, kind of what happens to them. But by the timeline of this book, which is like a decade later, like, there aren't people running around being superheroes anymore. The world's just kind of the world.
Okay.
But Pete gives up being Spider-Man after that, and he actually kind of gives up being a father too. Part of it seems like because he is scared that him being him will put his son in danger the way that it put MJ in danger. So he goes and becomes, like, a foreign, like, photographer for, like, the Daily Bugle or some weird shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then his son ends up being raised by Aunt May because, yeah, leave another young child with a geriatric old woman, right?
Well, I mean, is she original Spider-Man series Aunt May, or is she modern MCU Aunt May? Like,
no, I mean, she definitely looks like the older Aunt May, and, like, in this book, she is even older because this is several years after that.
Yeah.
But she seems to know that he's Spider-Man.
Okay.
I mean, not even seems, she definitely does, because she's the one that shows his son. But yeah, it's basically, it's more about a book about his son kind of coming to terms with having those powers, and, like, finding out that his dad was Spider-Man.
Okay.
And sort of, his general sort of dislike of his father because his father was never around.
Yeah. That was a book I was totally interested in when they first talked about it, because I'm a huge fan of J.J. Abrams. I don't really care anything about his son, because this is the first thing his son's ever done. But, like, I'm a huge fan of J.J. Abrams, and I wanted to read it, just, I didn't realize it was still being released.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's only 5 issues. The 5th issue just came out today, literally, today.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, a trade for it will probably be out, I'd say, like, January, February.
Yeah.
So, probably, like, definitely, it's another one kind of like the other two, where it's standalone, you don't have to know what came before it, and there's nothing after it. So, like, picking up the trade for it, like, you just get an interesting take on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And, like, you know enough about Spider-Man that you're going to recognize the characters and the powers and everything like that, because everything else is new.
Yeah.
I think the only modern character that you see in this book at all would be Riri Williams, who is, like, the new generation Iron Man.
I know who she is.
Yeah. So, but from what I was seeing, it looks like his son actually, like, worked a lot on this book with him.
Yeah.
But it's a really good story. It's got a lot of good, like, emotional beats to it also. And it was one of those where going into, I'm just like, oh, well, like, is, like, the big Hollywood writer-director going to be able to, like, keep a comic book interesting for 5 issues? Like, am I going to want to read the next one? And, like, they definitely did. Like, the book, every issue ended, I'm just like, okay, well, I want to know what happens next. It's not just like, oh, okay, well, that's over. Like, the fuck do I want to read the next one for?
Yeah.
All right. 3 more. They should be quicker. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Last Ronin. It's only 1 issue in right now. I honestly have no idea how many issues it's supposed to be. It is being marketed as the last Ninja Turtles book. So, it's sometime in the future. It's not like the far future. We find out in the book that April is still alive, but she's like an old woman now.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's pretty far in the future. Only 1 turtle is left alive. The other 3 are dead.
How can it be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles if they're not teenagers?
So I think it's actually just called Last Ronin, or The Last Ronin. Like, I don't think it actually has the TMNT moniker anywhere on it, but that's the only way that you guys are going to know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But so, in the book, it's the last turtle going to attack I guess he'd be like the great-grandson or something like that of the Shredder, who is basically taking over New York City.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, like, post-apocalyptic New Yorks where, like, the outskirts are just like a sludge, like, toxic wasteland. And then there's an undercity full of all the poor people, and the upper... It's Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
It's Midgar.
Yeah.
Like, show up to where, like, the villainous leader lives in a giant tower in the middle of the city. But it's the last turtle getting to that tower to try and, like, fight him, and kill him, because he's responsible for the death of his brothers, and I'm assuming his father, with Splinter. The whole book, though, they don't tell you who he is. He wears all black. You don't see he's not wearing a colored mask. There's no other identifying marks because he's carrying all of the turtles' weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got the staff, the nunchucks, the sword, the sais, and he's hallucinating through the whole thing that his brothers are talking to him, but they never show you which brother. Like, you have the voices, and they occasionally show, like, the silhouettes of, like, ghostly turtles behind him, but you don't know which one, like, who they are. So there's really no way throughout the book that I've noticed to tell who the last turtle left standing is.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, he's angry and mean and very much seems like a Raphael.
Yeah.
But really, judging by what he's been through, it could really be any of them. And they actually don't tell you until the very last page which one it is. I'm not going to spoil that. But yeah, like, the last page of the first issue, they tell you which turtle it is.
Nice.
And I guessed it like as I was reading it, who it was going to be, but it was still one of those, it's like, okay, cool. Like, I honestly wasn't sure if that was going to be right or not. But I'm definitely interested in seeing, like, where the rest of this story goes. I wasn't really sure going into it, because I'm like, oh, like, how good could a book like this be? Like, most of the interest in this book is them as, like, a family unit, and the occasion where, you know, Raph gets angry and leaves, and them trying to, like, and them struggling without, like, their 4th member. But, so, in 1 issue, they did pretty well. Next up is an image book called Crossover. It's written by Donny Cates, who's just writing fucking everything right now. The concept, it's only had 2 issues so far. The concept is, it's the real world, like, people in our world exist. And something happened, and superheroes suddenly appeared, like actual comic book characters, not just people with powers. Mm-hmm. And the comic book characters look like old school comic book characters with, like, the weird dot colored faces and stuff like that. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And a bunch of these people just appeared one day in this one specific area and kind of, like, scattered, but then this dome went up over the city and trapped all of the actual people there, plus all of these other comic book characters. And they're not all heroes and villains. Like, some of them are just regular, you know, bystanders from, like, your comic book series.
Yeah.
And so this is a world where, like, this happened, like, I guess 5 years prior in this world. And superhero comics have basically been outlawed. Like, they don't make new ones. So, like, stores that sell old superhero comics are sort of controversial, and there's, like, the crazy religious zealots outside, like, picketing against them and stuff like that. And that's sort of where the story picks up. It's a girl who still likes that stuff, but whose parents are actually trapped in this dome, or potentially dead, because nobody knows what's on the other side of this dome.
Yeah.
It alludes to a lot of heroes, though, which is interesting. Like, at one point, they draw a picture of what is definitely Superman, alluding that he was helping people escape from something. In the second issue, you see parts of a character that are definitely, like, the Thing from the Fantastic Four, Wonder Woman, and Spawn. So it's got this weird sort of appeal to it for fans of, like, the different comic book worlds, because while you're not going to see Wonder Woman and the Thing on the page together, because there's no way those rights would happen for a guy writing an Image comic, they can get away with, like, showing a rocky hand and, like, a woman silhouette with a rope on her waist and golden wrist guards. And yeah, it's weird but super interesting so far. And the difference between seeing the people that are, like, supposed to be, like, the real world people versus the way the comic book characters are drawn is really jarring at first. Because the comic book characters almost look like, you guys know what, like, back in the day when, like, something would be 3D, how, like, it would be, like, colored weird so that the red and blue glasses would actually make it look like it's popping off the page.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It almost has that feel to it. Like, when you look at it, it feels like you should be looking at it with 3D glasses on.
Huh.
Yeah. I was gonna say something. Oh, and at the beginning of the second issue, they name drop a bunch of comic book creators that have all been murdered or are missing, and I thought that was incredibly funny.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, it's actual, like, it's real world comic book creators that are known, like, that are, like Robert Kirkman and Brian K. Vaughan and Scott Snyder were all named. So,
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an ongoing book. It's Image, so it's independent of, like, you know, the big two. And then the last one is also Donny Cates. It's King in Black. It's the Venom event that's going on at Marvel right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the idea is really cool, and Cates has been writing all of the best books lately. His Venom run has been phenomenal since it started. And this is basically the god of the symbiotes has come to basically destroy the universe.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Rich, you might be familiar with him. Do you know who the Sentry is?
The Sentry? Isn't that, that's not, Peter Quill's dad, is it?
No, you're thinking of Ego from the movie.
No. I'm thinking of, he was an ancient race of basically Spartans, but they were alien Spartans, which is why he, like, I've heard this before. I'm not talking about Ego. So
Sentry, I thought you might know it because of the Hulk, the World War Hulk cartoon movie. I figured you'd seen that.
I have not seen it. No.
Okay. So Sentry is, he's like a regular superhero. He's kind of Marvel's answer to Superman.
Mm-hmm.
He is, but he's also kind of crazy, but overly powerful. And if his power gets out of control, he actually becomes evil.
Okay.
It's very weird. But the way they wrote him initially in, like, the early 2000s was he had always been a hero and he'd always been around. But at a certain point, he wiped the entire world's memory of him because he became too dangerous. His power was getting too out of control.
Yeah.
But, like, he had a random appearance in this book, which was just one of those, like, the fuck? I haven't seen that guy in, like, a decade. But this is one of those, King in Black's one of those stories where it's been getting set up since, like, 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been this very slow burn through, like, multiple books. Like, Thor had stuff for it, Silver Surfer books, Guardians of the Galaxy, like, all these books that, like, mostly that Cates has worked on, but that a few other people have worked on, have been, like, sowing the seeds for this story. And then Venom has been sort of the main driving force in, like, building it up. And now it's just this thing that's affecting the entire Marvel universe.
Yeah.
And historically, like we've talked about a billion times, like, these events don't go well. This one still has way too many tie-ins, but it looks like this, like, the core book might actually be, like, one of the first really good ones in a long time. Mm-hmm. Since the Thor one from a couple years ago.
Okay.
Which Which, funny enough, the guy that wrote the Thor one is one of the guys that also wrote some of the stuff that sort of set up this story.
Nice.
So, yeah. But yeah, that's all the comic book stuff. Go read comics. They're good. Support local comic shops. Don't just buy all your shit on Amazon.
I just found this out as you were discussing comics. I looked on Facebook real quick and got an ad. Did you know that there is a podcast called Marvel/Method, where Method Man talks with other famous nerdy people about comic book stuff?
No, but that's actually kind of cool.
It's only on Sirius XM.
Oh, well, fuck that.
Yeah, that's the dumbest thing ever, because I was looking for it, trying to add it, and it's only on Sirius.
So, I forget, Rich, did you buy your card new or used?
I bought it used, but I had Sirius for a little bit.
So, did you get all the harassing calls from them?
At the end of my Sirius, yes, I did get a bunch of... But, like, I had to sign up to it, and then I told them, do not set me up for automatic resubscribe, because I do not want to keep it. I just want to try it out for a bit. So I did get a lot of calls near the end of it, and now it's just I get a lot of letters.
So, I never signed up for anything, because I didn't want it. Like, I don't really listen to the radio. None of their content appeals to me. If I wanted to listen to music, I'm going to listen to it off of, like, an app that I pay for that I can listen to exactly what I want to listen to.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I didn't sign up for it, didn't give them information. The dealership gave them all of that. And when the trial ended, I started getting calls every fucking day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I finally got a chance to answer one. And, like, I'm just like, look, I didn't use this. Like, I don't want it. And the person would not fucking let me talk. They just kept rambling. It's like, oh, well, we'll just give you another trial. I just need your credit card information so that we have it on file for the renewal. I'm just like, I finally got to the point where I just, like, cut them off. I'm like, you need to fucking stop talking. Like,
yeah.
I don't want this fucking service.
Yeah.
Take me off your mailing list. Do not call me again, or I will raise a fucking fit.
Yeah, Sirius is the worst. It is the absolute worst, and their customer service and push is terrible and annoying. I hate them.
Yeah, it sucked. Like, I was trying to be nice. Like, I was trying to, like, interject. I'm like, no, like, I don't want to do this. Like, you don't get it. Like, I don't use the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, well, it's not just music. We also have, like, whatever, like, talk shows and ebooks or whatever. I'm like, no, but, like, I don't want that. Like, why aren't you listening to me?
The worst part about my car is my GPS is kind of out of whack. So when I use Google Maps, it thinks that I'm sometimes, like, 30 feet to the right. So it'll put me onto the wrong street sometimes.
Oh, that sucks.
That's not dangerous at all.
No, not at all. And so, like, I tried to, like, I looked up how to, like, update the software or whatever, and I'll tell my car to update, and it'll be like, oh, well, everything's all updated. I then, like, looked it up, and they're like, oh, well, you contact OnStar, and they'll update it. I contact OnStar. Oh, we can't update it unless you subscribe to us. And it's, like, $200 a year or whatever. I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah, because that has nothing to do with OnStar.
Yeah.
That's Android Auto. But does that happen if you're just using Google Maps on your phone?
No, it's just on my car.
That's weird, because all your car is doing is using the Google Maps from your phone.
Nope. Actually, from what I've read, it uses Google Maps on your car based on Waze or something. I don't know. It's weird. I've looked it up. I've tried to figure out how to fix it. There is no fix for it, unless I think I might be able to, like, bring it to the dealership and get them to update it or something. But I'm not dealing with.
I mean, that's how you have to that's how the app gets updated on the car if you need it. But, like, I've gotten just Android Auto updates on my phone that change the interface on the car.
Yeah.
But, like, if I have the navigation set up on my phone already and plug it in, it just picks up from right where it went.
It does the same for me, but it pulls from the car's... I don't know, it's weird. It's something that I've either been thinking of contacting this one podcast called Reply All, where they have a segment called Super Tech Support, where they try to figure out your issue, or just bringing it to the dealership to see if it's something they can handle. Maybe do both if they can't figure it out at the dealership.
Yeah, because, I mean, I've never had to really look into the Android Auto stuff, but it definitely did not seem like it was pulling anything, like, on its own, because it doesn't have access to anything. Like, my car doesn't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Like, it needs my phone to access all of that stuff.
My car does have Wi-Fi capabilities.
But do you have, like, the subscription for it?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because I thought you had to pay... Because I think mine does, too, if I paid for it, but, like, who the fuck's going to pay for that, right?
Exactly. I would only pay for it if I had kids. And
even then, like, do you really think you'd pay for something like that? Like...
Probably not.
Fucking, like, my phone has 5G. Like, what the fuck do I need Wi-Fi in my car for?
But anyway, there's more news.
There is. So, there's been a bunch of Spider-Man 3 stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure... So, I was trying to find, like, actual 100% confirmation. I think this is the only, like, 100% confirmed thing. Alfred Molina is returning as Doc Ock for Spider-Man 3.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that the Hollywood Reporter broke this apparently yesterday. He was probably the best part of that movie, so that works.
Can't agree with that.
Now Collider has expanded on this whole thing, and they're saying that not only is Alfred Molina returning, as well as Jamie Foxx, that was confirmed like a couple months ago, but they're also confirming that Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Kristen Dunst are also returning.
So is this just going to be a live action Into the Spider-Verse?
I mean, that's kind of what it seems like.
Yeah, that's what people are thinking, but who knows?
Yeah, apparently, from what Collider wrote, Garfield and Dunst are both like confirmed. Like their wording was "will return," while Sony is still working to close a deal with Maguire.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly,
what
like,
the fuck is that guy doing? Otherwise?
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know what? I'm fine with the two Spider-Mans returning, but like, why bring back Dunst? Like, she was not good in that role. Like, she was very flat and just not like her acting was bad in that movie.
You also didn't.
She's
like
not
those
a bad
movies, though. So.
But like, she's not a bad actress though either. Like, those scripts were bad, which doesn't help. But like, she was bad in them.
I didn't think she was bad in them. I didn't think she was terrible in them. I also didn't hate those movies. I enjoyed those movies. But yeah, it's interesting to see that they might be doing this, because like what is Sony trying to do with this movie? Are they trying to make an easy break so that they can keep doing Spider-Man movies without the MCU support, or are like what is their plan with this? Are they going to try to bring in like some form of representation from the Into the Spider-Verse movie as well? It's crazy to think that they're like doing a potential like a Spider-Verse live action movie.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree with that 100%. The only thing I can think is Into the Spider-Verse is so well regarded and did so well for them that why not fucking try and do that for real, like live action?
But like, it's too different. Like,
oh, I agree.
If you're
I was talking from Sony's point of view.
Yeah. Like I understand from Sony's point of view, but from anybody else's point of view, when it comes to the MCU with how tight knit it is, if you're just going to be like, oh well, multiple universes now, it's like, well, fuck you. Like it's going to be too much to like, and too disjointed from the combined universe of the MCU, on top of the fact that like, you left the movie with that giant cliffhanger at the end of it. Like, are they just gonna ignore that completely because, oh, another world needs his help, and is that what the movie's going to be? Are they?
Oh no, I'm sure that will still play part of it.
Yeah, it's weird, it's interesting. I'm both excited for it and not.
Yeah, like, as much as I don't like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, like, I think it being as big of a gap as it has been, that having Tobey as that sort of, like, older Spider-Man could work, depending on how they play it. Because, like, in his 40s, he's definitely not going to be as quippy and stuff as he should have been in his 20s.
Yeah.
I do think that Andrew Garfield, like, we've talked about before, I prefer the Amazing Spider-Man movies 100% over the Raimi ones.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, those movies I don't think have been out of sort of the view long enough. Or, like, and, like, Garfield only had 2 movies to work with that, like, I feel like he's just not going to have anything to do. Because, like, he wasn't especially, like, memorable, let's say. Like, he was too cool to be Peter. But he had the good Spider-Man, like, banter going.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 6 years since that movie.
I mean, it's kind of the same problem with Amazing Spider-Man 2 as with, like, my issue with going from Far From Home into a Spider-Verse. Like, Amazing Spider-Man 2 ended with, like, him coming back to being Spider-Man. He stopped being Spider-Man for, like, a month or two. And then...
Maybe even longer, we don't know.
Yeah, maybe even longer. And then Rhino attacks, and he's like, oh, I'll be Spider-Man again. Basically. And, like, they kind of where they left it off, like, that, I really enjoyed the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Like, I thought they were good. I thought they had something and could have done something with a third and make it a trilogy, but they just, like, the way they left it off, like, it's gonna be weird to me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, having Garfield come back, and it's like, well, he didn't have that closure, like, to his cycle. Like, at least, like, Spider-Man 3 sort of, like, closed off what that story needed to be.
Yeah.
Like, it was still open for more, but it didn't need more.
Yeah.
Like, Spider-Man 2 literally, like you said, like, basically ended on a cliffhanger. It ended with a fight starting.
Yeah, exactly. It ended with him being the Spider-Man that we know now, basically. Like, or the Spider-Man that everyone not relates to, but, like, everyone knows of. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I'm skeptical of this movie. Like, this is probably the first Marvel MCU movie that I'm just kind of like, I don't know about. Like, I'm still gonna watch it when it eventually comes out, but it's one of those, it's like, yeah, at this point, like, you might just be putting too many people into it, and they're not putting the people I want to see. Where's fucking Willem Dafoe? I was gonna say he's dead, but also, technically, so is Doc Ock. Unless Alfred Molina isn't returning as Doc Ock, is Doc Ock in this new universe. Like,
Which, I mean, totally possible. I mean, you also, I mean, didn't Jamie Foxx's Electro get killed too?
Yeah. Yes, but Electro's kind of weird. Like, he could have just dissipated and then come back. Electro's weird, isn't he?
I mean, yes. I mean, it also, it's comic books. Like, Norman Osborn has been killed like 6 times.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, where's Emma Stone? I'd rather see her again than Kirsten Dunst.
Doesn't mean she couldn't also eventually.
I mean, she could be in it as Spider-Gwen, because if they're
that's what I'm gonna say. Let her be Spider-Gwen. If
they're gonna do this Spider-Verse and they have a Gwen Stacy casted, do it and have a Spider-Verse with a Spider-Gwen and bring her fully and officially into the MCU. Like, but
I mean, they're not going to do that, right? In a Sony movie, if they can get away with it.
No, they're not.
Because I bet Sony doesn't own the rights to that character because that character is newer than their contract.
Yeah.
So
and maybe that could be Marvel's answer to it. Like, maybe they're allowing them to do this so that they could bring in like a Spider-Gwen or even a Miles Morales into the MCU and just have that, well, Pete's gone, but we still have Spider-Man type of thing going on.
Yeah, and honestly, like, and I think Kevin Feige has even said before, like, there will be a live-action Miles at some point.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah.
And, like, that makes sense. Like, you need Pete to be a little bit older first.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is they already have a Prowler cast. Yeah. No, wasn't he?
Oh, no, yeah, no. Donald Glover was technically Aaron Davis in Homecoming. I guess that was.
I was literally trying to remember Donald Glover's name when I was, like, making those noises. I was like, what was his name? Yeah, Donald Glover was technically Miles' uncle. So
yeah, and they do name drop Miles as, like, his little nephew, so I think, like, Miles is just still too young.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, Pete's a teen in these movies, so Pete needs to have, like, he needs to become the role model by being older to show Miles how to be a Spider-Man. Or at least,
yeah, exactly.
That's the Spider-Man Miles Morales relationship I know, because I haven't read the books where Miles becomes Spider-Man after Spider-Man died.
Yeah, so even in sort of modern, like, in the comics, like, Pete is a mentor to Miles still. Yeah. Like, because even before they merged the universes, like, 616 Pete ended up in 1610 and, like, met Miles and sort of, like, helped set him on the right path, like, helped him, like, understand, like, what the powers were.
Yeah.
Bless you. And now that they're all in the same universe, like, they do have sort of like a mentor-mentee relationship in a lot of ways. Though, it doesn't seem to matter because Marvel Comics is doing this weird shit right now where, all the teen superheroes are illegal. So there's like this new government agency going around and rounding them up and putting them into basically re-education camps.
I honestly thought you were going to say Marvel was doing this weird thing where everything's made up and points don't matter.
I mean, that too. Because
that's just what Marvel does with their comics.
But, like, they're in this situation now where, like, Miles is one of the characters that's, like, in these books where, like, this government agency is trying to, like, lock them away for being heroes. And all Pete has to do is, like, vouch for him, and he's fine. It's like, dude, you literally have another guy with the same name as you. Fucking go get the okay.
Yeah.
Like you just need like a legitimate hero to vouch for you. That's all.
Yeah.
And it's like all of these characters like are like second generation characters to like someone else. It's like, dude, just go ask fucking Iron Man or Captain Marvel or one of these other 100 fucking superheroes to fucking give you a pass.
Yeah.
Instead, the fucking X-Men show up and save them. Which honestly, like, that was actually a cool scene, so I'm okay with that. It's first time in years that Cyclops has been cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so WB had a big announcement last week.
I am excited for this.
So WB announced that their whole slate of films in 2021 are going to be released on HBO Max and theaters on the same day.
I'm not going to say ecstatic, but I'm happy to hear this because there's a number of big films that I would like to see that I would be annoyed and frustrated to have to wait 2 months to see it because I'm not going to the movie theaters. Like I said earlier that like by June I'll probably go to conventions and whatnot if I have the vaccine and shit, but I ain't fucking going to a movie theater. Like, I'm not going to a movie theater till probably mid to late summer.
Yeah.
Assuming movie theaters even exist at that point.
Assuming they even exist, exactly, because excuse me, it's not even that like companies like WB are just moving all of their films to same day release on digital streaming service as well as in theaters. But like movie theaters just haven't been making money because they couldn't do anything over this past year. Like,
and even when they could, people weren't like, A, movies weren't being released to go see, and B, people just weren't going to the theaters because it's dangerous.
Yeah, for instance, Tenet barely made any money, and it was supposed to be like the biggest release of this year. We still have not seen the new James Bond movie because it has not released in theaters.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So, one thing to point out with this, the movies will be available on HBO Max for a month.
Okay.
So like, if a movie releases on January 1st, it will be available till the end of January on HBO Max. It will then be removed from the streaming service, but will continue its theatrical run for however long that is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then it will be released to home media, and then at some point I'm sure it will be put back up onto HBO Max, because why wouldn't it be if it's an HBO movie? Or a WB movie.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, movie theaters are obviously upset about this. The AMC Theaters president and CEO, Adam Aron, made a statement to Hollywood Reporter that said the following: clearly, Warner Media intends to sacrifice a considerable portion of the profitability of its movie studio division and that of its production partners and filmmakers to subsidize its HBO Max startup. As for AMC, we will do all in our power to ensure that Warner does not do so at our expense. We will aggressively pursue economic terms that preserve our business. He also stated that AMC has already entered into immediate and an urgent dialogue with Warner Brothers.
Of course they have.
Yeah.
Because,
I understand their, like, theater owners, like, anger for this call, but you gotta understand, like, you're still not gonna be making any money. Like, you're just not.
Yeah, so Variety reported, just before all this happened, that AMC has announced that they are selling 200 million shares to raise, like, $800,000, basically to avoid bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
And then that caused their stocks to then drop by, like, 17 points.
Yeah. Like, your company is you said, I believe it was AMC said that if they don't start showing films by like mid-August, they're dead on the water. And they haven't really been able to get a full open. I believe in New Jersey, movie theaters are still closed.
I think so too. I don't know if they may have reopened temporarily, but I'm pretty sure they got closed up again.
Like, I know Pennsylvania movie theaters are open, Philly movie theaters are open, but I haven't looked into it in a while, but Jersey movie theaters are still closed. There are still tons of just empty blank space right now that isn't
also there's
used.
just no movies to see.
Yeah, because no one's releasing them because they're not going to make any money off of them. But at least if HBO Max, if WB decides like, well, we'll release it same day in both, maybe people will sign up for HBO Max and continue to be signed up for it because they're getting all these decent movies same day. They don't have to go to the theater for a month. Like, it's awesome. It's a awesome deal.
Yeah, like, I don't know. as a big movie fan, when movie theaters are safe to go to, I entirely intend to go see movies in theaters if I can.
Yeah.
Like, I like that experience, but I also like knowing that I'm not going to fucking get sick and die because I want to see a fucking movie.
I don't want to go to a movie theater and sit there with a face mask on watching a movie for 3 hours.
Also, I'd be fine with that, to be honest with you. Like, yeah, it would be uncomfortable, but like the masks I have are like they're not bad to wear. Like they're double lined, so like I don't know. They feel light on my face, but they're still thick enough that I know nothing's getting through them.
Mine aren't bad to wear, but it's that argument that a lot of people have where it's like, it's harder to breathe where I'm wearing a mask. I mean, it's that, like, I'm 300 pounds, 330 pounds, like, I already breathe heavy as it is. And then add to it that I have a face mask covering, that I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I'd rather just not go to the movie theaters until I know it's safe, and then go. Like, that's one of the few places that if I go to, if there's no social distancing guidelines, then I'll probably still keep wearing a mask. But if they keep like some form of social distancing open, I'll probably feel a little bit more comfortable taking my mask off. Or maybe I'll have to be that fat guy on an airplane and buy the seats around me so that I have that social distancing precaution and take my mask off.
Man, fuck it. At that point, just wait till the movie comes out on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Buy it, because that'll be significantly cheaper.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
So I'm gonna read this article. It's not that long. It's from GameSpot. It's Christopher Nolan's reaction to this. Mm-hmm. Who, like, Rich, you and I were talking a little bit before we started recording. Like, Nolan's kind of a pretentious douchebag about everything related to movies.
Yeah.
He's just one of those people, and like we both said up front, like, oh, like, he makes decent movies, but like neither of us have seen one of his movies in over a decade. Like, maybe he doesn't make good movies.
Yeah.
And like, frankly, like, the last movie I saw that he made wasn't very good. Like, Dark Knight Rises was the weakest of those three movies.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this article, veteran director Christopher Nolan has shared his thoughts on the decision by Warner Brothers to release its entire 2021 movie slate on HBO Max and in theaters. Nolan, a longtime supporter of the traditional movie-going experience, told E.T. that he was in disbelief when he heard the news. He remarks that there is such controversy around the news because, as Nolan tells it, Warner Brothers didn't tell anyone. The 2021 slate, including The Matrix 4, Dune, Suicide Squad, The Many Saints of Newark, are being positioned as lost leaders to help fuel the growth of HBO Max, according to Nolan. So basically, like, he's trying to say that, like, Warner Brothers is just throwing these things out there just to get people to sign up for HBO.
Which is honestly, absolutely false. Like, if in a perfect world there was no pandemic, this wouldn't be happening. Like,
yeah, exactly. And then Nolan goes on to say, in 2021, they've got some of the top filmmakers in the world. They've got some of the biggest stars in the world who worked for years in some cases on these projects, very close to their hearts, that are meant to be big screen experiences, Nolan said. They're meant to be out there for the widest possible audiences, and now they're being used as a loss leader for the streaming service, for the fledgling streaming service without any consultation. So there's a lot of controversy. It's very, very, very messy, a real bait and switch.
You missed one of those varies.
Yeah, that's fine. So this is where I had the most problem with what he was saying. If these movies are meant for the widest possible audiences, then the streaming platform is how you fucking do that.
Yeah.
No one's going to the movie theaters.
Like, friggin', you can get A-list celebrities on streaming services. I shared a video for a trailer for a Netflix show that's fucking Nicolas Cage talking about curse words.
Also, look at a lot of the the shows and movies that are coming out on HBO, on Netflix, on Hulu, on Amazon. Like, they've got big name people on these shows.
Yeah. Season 2 of Altered Carbon, Anthony fucking Mackie, he was the lead actor. It's just like, you get the wide audiences from these streaming services. And I personally would not be against having to pay to see these movies on these services. As
long as it's a reasonable fee. Like, the $30 for Mulan was not reasonable when you already have to pay a subscription.
I will argue that it was reasonable. Number one, it's a children's movie, so you're generally going to be buying 2 to 3 tickets, so that's already cheaper than going to see a movie. And 2, it stays available on the service through December, and then it is available on the service. So, like, you paid the $30 in, I think it was September, and you had the movie available to you all the way until the wide release in September, December.
So, apparently Mulan was garbage, so I guess that was also a bad example.
Well, Mulan was garbage, the actress is garbage, and the story and everything they did to it turned it garbage. Like, there were a lot of reasons people weren't happy with.
I don't want to spend I don't want to spend $36 for a movie that I only need to watch once just because it's going to be available for 4 months.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, Mulan is now available wide release on Disney Plus. You don't have to pay for it.
Exactly.
So, like, but like my point is that, like, yeah, if it's like $15 to $20 and I always have it available to me, I'm all for paying for that to see this movie. Like.
See, I'd be fine $15 for the one-time view. Because like you said, that is cheaper than a Blu-ray. That is cheaper than going to the movies.
Yeah.
And even, I mean, like 15 to 20, like, even with the cost of most of the streaming services, like, I can sort of get behind that.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't do it for every movie, but there's certain ones where it's like, no, I really want to see this. Yeah. I will pay for this because this is what it would cost me to go to the movies anyway.
And, like, there's these lists of movies that, like, Suicide Squad, Dune, Godzilla vs. Kong, Matrix 4, like, I don't really care much for Suicide Squad or Dune, but, like, Godzilla vs. Kong, hell yeah. Matrix 4, probably, maybe. Like, there are some movies that I wouldn't see. There are some movies that I'm not too interested in. But the thing is, because it's going to be available to me on this streaming service, I will watch it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to read all the rest of this, but yeah, Nolan just, like I said before, he is very much a pretentious douchebag.
Mm-hmm.
I am sure that there is some honesty to this with, like, WB probably was not as open and forthcoming with the production partners who actually made the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, we do not live in a world right now where his ideal of, well, I'm a super rich guy, I can just buy my own movie theater and go see this.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, that's not the way to get these movies out there for people. If you actually want people to enjoy your movies, fucking put them out so people can see them.
Yeah, like we said, James Bond was supposed to release in March, May, April of this year, and it has been pushed back until mid next year.
Yeah, it's been delayed, I think, 3 times at this point.
Yeah. At some point, you kind of just release it so that people can see it. Like, release it on a $20 rental fee or whatever. Like, friggin' Onward did it. Onward was released within a month of its theatrical release, and it was, I think, $20 to rent it or whatever. People saw it, and it made money. Like, it probably didn't make as much as it should have, but that movie released around the time that the pandemic hit really hard in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, that Erica and I watched it on Disney Plus because it's like, oh, cool, like, we can't go see this now. Like, we'll watch it here.
I saw it at the theaters. That was the last movie I saw in theaters before the pandemic hit. Because it was literally the week before the pandemic hit. It's just, like, I want new entertainment. I started watching Super fucking Natural because it's 15 seasons and that's new to me. Because I don't have new media to consume.
Yeah, I mean, like, every once in a while I go onto, like, Amazon and, like, look at, like, the Prime movies, and, like, there's nothing there to watch. Like, I mean, there's stuff there to watch, but, like, I don't want to watch a 10-year-old movie. Like, I'm looking for something in the last year, and it's like, oh, right, there aren't any movies in the last year.
Exactly.
Like, there's some, like, small indie movies and stuff I'm not interested in, but, like, we didn't get any, like quote-unquote blockbusters this year.
This is the first year in 11, 12 years that there hasn't been a Marvel movie. Like,
yeah.
No Marvel releases all year.
Since 2008.
Yeah. It's like, I want to see, Black Widow. I want to see, WandaVision. I'm excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I know that probably still has to finish filming. I don't know if they ever got around to finishing that.
I think it still does need to finish.
But, like, there's all this stuff that's just out there in limbo that, like, we can't get to see that's already made. And it turns into greed of just like, well, we need to make money off this. But, like, I understand you wanting to make money, but, like, find a workaround because people want your content.
Yeah, exactly. Scroll back up here. So, this will be quick. I just wanted to mention this. Rich, you watched the most recent episode of Mandalorian?
Yes.
So it was episode 6 of season 2, chapter 14 is the episode title.
Yes.
I just wanted to put out there that
the episode title wasn't chapter 14. The episode title was The Tragedy.
Oh, I'm sorry, not the episode title. The way it's tagged in Disney Plus is chapter 14.
Chapter 14, The Tragedy.
I always forget that like the title is actually like in the episode, but Disney Plus just calls it by chapter.
Yeah.
So like we got Boba Fett. And we got to see Boba Fett actually show why he was like a feared bounty hunter across the galaxy for the first time ever.
There's finally a reason for people to be a fan of Boba Fett. Like,
yeah, well, there's at least a canon reason.
There's finally an on-screen reason for people to be fans of Boba Fett. Like,
yeah, because Empire Strikes Back, he did nothing at all. And in Return of the Jedi, he got knocked into a pit by a blind man.
Yeah. And in Clone Wars, he was 12. So, like...
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones, yeah. But, like, it was... Like, he was so awesome. Like, oh, man, I fucking love Boba Fett now. Like, that's awesome. But, like, they finally gave you a reason to actually like him on screen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they showed him, you know, taking down stormtroopers without his armor. And, like, that was cool. Like, him with that weird staff and just fucking wrecking people with it. But then, like, he goes and gets his armor and just fucking walks across the battlefield killing everybody.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, there's the one scene where, like, he shoots guys with his fucking knee cannon, and then all the other stormtroopers just run the fuck away.
Yeah. That's one thing about that show that makes me laugh, is, there was, like, the Mandalorian Purge, where the Empire tried to kill all the Mandalorians and take all their Beskar. But why didn't they do more with the Beskar? Because the Beskar can bounce laser bullets off itself and deflect lightsaber blades. Like, why don't you do more with Beskar if you have all this steel? Like,
well, I don't think they... So, like, the thing is, like, there's not actually that much of it.
Yeah.
And I think the Mandalorian Purge was pre-Empire, wasn't it?
No, they mentioned it during the Mandalorian that, like, the Empire stole all the Beskar from the Mandalorian.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So there was actually, like,
Yeah, it was...
There was a war that takes place, like, pre-A New Hope.
Yeah, it was Jedi's versus Mandalorian.
Yeah, so that was pre that stuff. Because that's actually where that, Moff Gideon's Darksaber, that's where, like, that was one of, like, the things that people were, like, hunting for during that whole ordeal. Yeah. Because that was the Darksaber was the first lightsaber of a Mandalorian Jedi.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was a really good episode. It ended really well, and just them finally making Boba Fett a character worth people being a fan of was cool.
It was such a good episode. I am excited to see what comes over the next... I'm assuming 2, because we're almost to 16, and it was 8 last season, so I'm assuming we got 8 this season. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think there's only 2 episodes left.
Yeah.
Also, if you didn't see it, there's a very short video online that somebody put, holding out for a hero onto the scene with Boba Fett. It's quite funny.
Nice, I gotta check it out.
Like, it's like 43 seconds, but, like, it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
I think Sean shared it yesterday.
I'll have to check it out.
So this one I assume will be quick also. KFC and Lifetime are teaming up to make a movie starring Mario Lopez, AC Slater from Saved by the Bell, as a sexy Colonel Sanders.
I don't think it's like a limited series or something. It's not necessarily a movie.
Oh, it's not a movie, it's a limited series.
Yeah, I think.
No, I want to say I thought I saw that it is a short movie.
A short film. It's a mini movie. A mini movie. That's what Twitter says. So it's like...
Okay, yes.
Oh yeah, it does say that mini movie.
Yeah. Did you say it premieres on December 13th?
I didn't say that yet, no.
Yeah, it premieres on December 13th. It is the creepiest picture you can ever find.
It's called A Recipe for Seduction.
Yes.
Which is a good name.
It is. It actually is. My mom loves Lifetime, and so what she used to do is, like, if my brother was doing homework or whatever, we were downstairs, and my mom wanted to watch TV, she'd come down and be like, "What time is it? Lifetime!" And that's our cue to go upstairs and not watch these shitty movies. So I sent that to the family group text. I just wrote, "What time is it?" and then sent the link to the Twitter article. And
wow.
it is just, it's so weird. It's so weird.
The tweet that they announced this for, the first reply to it under me is from G4 TV saying this isn't real. So,
but
yeah,
it's apparently a 15-minute short film.
Oh, see, I thought it was gonna be a little longer than that, but even 15 minutes, like, that's insane. The tagline for it is, "We all have our secrets. His just happens to be a recipe for seduction."
I thought it was gonna. It should have said something about how many herbs and spices do they use? Like 20-something herbs and spices.
Yeah,
it just happened to be the 23 herbs and spices.
But I love how they like gave him like salt and pepper hair,
and
like obviously a fake mustache and like little goatee thing.
Oh yeah,
like it's not even centered. Like look at it. Like the center of it is under his nostril.
Yeah. It's gonna be, now knowing that it's only 15 minutes, I'll probably watch it because I'll have downtime at work at some point to watch it. But it's gonna be so bad and so weird.
And I throw this on the doc too, in case you guys forgot. I think it was about a year ago now. KFC also released their anime-style dating sim, I Love You, Colonel Sanders. Which currently has over 8,000 very positive reviews on Steam.
Yeah.
The internet loves them some dating sims.
Yep, especially when it's anime Colonel Sanders.
Yeah. It's also been a little over a year since Wendy's released Feast of Legends, the fight against frozen beef, the tabletop RPG.
Oh, right, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man,
whoever... Still never got
Sorry,
to...
go ahead.
I was just going to say, still never got to see that Critical Role episode because of fans having an issue with it.
Yeah. I gotta say, though, whoever is, like, leading the KFC marketing division, like, they fucking have their finger on the pulse of somebody. Because they are doing all of the things to get the most, reaction, basically.
I gotta just say, they're doing everything right. Like, they know this is gonna create some form of publicity, and people are gonna watch it, or like it, or go to KFC because of it. Like, they're doing everything right.
Or at least they are doing everything.
Yeah.
Because, like, their food still isn't very good.
Yeah, I don't think I can walk in there without having some form of reaction, so I don't know.
I don't know, they do, like, a grilled chicken, don't they?
They do like, a grilled chicken, but I feel like there's just going to be so much flour in the air that if I breathe, I might...
Oh, they don't actually fry anything in the building. All that stuff all gets shipped to them frozen.
I hope not. That'd just be terrible.
No, I mean, that's 100... Like, that stuff is probably... It is fried and then fried again when they get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been to KFC in forever.
I mean, neither have I, so... So, Oscar Isaac is apparent. So I put in talks, but apparently he's confirmed to be playing Solid Snake in the long in development Metal Gear Solid movie.
Nice.
This movie has been in development, in case you guys didn't realize it, in one form or another, with one studio and director and stuff like that, since 2006.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. This iteration with the current writers and directors has been, like, officially in development since 2017. It looks like the writer was brought on in, like, 2014, 2015.
Watch this all be just, like, secret code words, and it's not a Metal Gear Solid movie. It's just, like, a remake of Escape from L.A., and he's not Solid Snake, he's Snake Plissken.
I guess it's fine. That would also work.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny that a lot of, like, the media places that are posting about this, like your Hollywood Reporter-esque places, not, like, your game medias, they're using a picture from, like, a modern Metal Gear Solid game, so it's a good picture.
Yeah.
Which means it's not Solid Snake, it's Big Boss.
Yeah.
Or it's potentially Big Boss's doppelganger that you play as in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, Oscar Isaac is playing Snake. That's not Snake.
Wasn't he Snake at some... He was Naked Snake.
So the report is Oscar Isaac is Solid Snake.
Yeah. Well, because this film has been being made since 2006, who knows what version of Snake we're going to get.
I mean, that's true.
Like, is it going to be a Solid Snake with an Otacon, or is it going to be a Naked Snake with an Ocelot? And it's just, who knows.
So what I think would be funny is if it takes so long to get developed that Isaac becomes old enough to then be Metal Gear Solid 4 Snake.
They just do old Snake. That'd be great.
Or they do like the Uncharted movie, and Mark Wahlberg gets so old that he just becomes the old sidekick instead of the young hero.
Yeah.
So like
he could get old enough to become Colonel Campbell instead of old.
Well, I was gonna say he gets old enough that he just becomes Big Boss, and somebody else gets cast to play Solid Snake.
True.
So yeah, that's happening. And then, Rich, you got the Kate Bishop update for Avengers and beat it already?
Yeah, everybody got the Kate Bishop update for Avengers who has Avengers, because it was free.
So all 12 people that are still playing.
According to Steam charts, over 2,000 people were playing it yesterday. So,
Okay.
And its numbers were like at 500s throughout like the weeks, and then over 2,000 people started playing it yesterday because of the drop. But yeah, they dropped Kate Bishop. They added a full storyline. I think it ran me close to about 3 to 4 hours. It was a really good story. It was really interesting. Kate herself is really fun to play as. Very different from the rest of the characters. Her abilities are teleport based, and so they each have their bar called like their quote intrinsic ability. So like the Hulk's rage is his intrinsic, or Iron Man's abilities to use his like weapons is his intrinsic, or Black Widow, as she hits characters, she builds up a combo bar, and once that fills up, she does more damage, but if she gets hit, it drops completely. So they like each have like a little different playstyle that you have to pay attention to. Hers is really cool because you hold R2, which is the block button, and then use one of X, circle, triangle, or square, and she does like a teleporting attack. And as she's doing that, even when she uses her intrinsic, it still fills up her overcharge bar, which normally doesn't happen when you're using your intrinsic for any of the other characters. So that was really cool, but like the kind of bummer is her overcharge only just makes her bar fill up faster, and then gives her a little bit added increased critical hit rate while she's overcharged, and it doesn't last too long. But it's still like, she's like neat to play as. She bounces around a lot. She's got 3 different arrows, just a normal one, a triple arrow, and an exploding arrow, which my triple arrow is actually a, what is 5? Pentuple arrow, I guess? 5? I don't know. She shoots 5 arrows instead of 3 in an arc.
But no boomerang arrow?
No boomerang arrow.
Fuck this game.
She does have like a bouncing arrow, like it'll bounce from one enemy to the other if you charge it up right, but I don't charge it up long enough to get it. The cool thing they did with their challenge cards, so every character has a challenge cards, but all the free characters you have to pay to get their premium challenge card. You don't have to pay to get the challenge card, you have to pay to get the rewards from it. Some rewards are free, some are based off the pay. So you pay the $10 and it unlocks everything, like the cosmetics and the ability to get more credits by doing the challenge card. If you don't pay anything, you can still do the challenge card and get the in-game currencies that aren't the credits to buy new shit and aren't the cosmetics, but you get like the upgrade items, that's the word. And you can fill that all the way up before you even decide to buy it or not, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that is actually a nice thing. So you said that like she teleports. Does she have like a device to do that?
Yeah, she has a device. She stole a teleport device from AIM throughout like the past 5 years and has like worked on it, and so she can use that device to teleport just small distances, not far at all.
And then is this like was she like a hero prior to everything, or is she actually like Kamala's age?
She was 19 before A-Day.
Okay, so like she existed as a hero prior to A-Day.
She existed as a known hero essentially, but she was not an Avenger. But she was on their they were getting ready to make her an Avenger, and then A-Day happened, and everyone split up. Her and Clint stayed with S.H.I.E.L.D., and then when everything started back up, her and Clint were still working with S.H.I.E.L.D., but the Avengers were busy saving the world. They couldn't really help them during the time. It was like an interesting way they did it, but they did make her an official Avenger by midpoint of the content. And like I said, the story was good. It brought in, I don't know if this is a comic book character, but a character named Dr. Getz, Getz.
I believe that's a comic character. It sounds familiar.
And Dum Dum Dugan was in there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he ran point, or like comms on a mission that you had to run with her. And like the story is basically she's going after AIM because Clint has gone missing, and she's trying to find Clint. And then at one point you find out that he's kind of working with AIM for some reason by going through this time portal. And so then the idea is like, oh, we have to destroy the time portal, but we also have to save Clint and get him back to our time. So they create their own portal, time machine portal, to go back an hour before Clint jumped in time, talk to Clint, find out that he's working with Fury, who's working with AIM in the future, and then you find out that basically from the end because of the end of the main story of Avengers, the Kree are going to attack, and they're going to use giant, like, Sentinel type constructs to attack the Earth.
Thanks for the spoilers.
You're not gonna play it anyway.
Hey, if it ever hits like $20, I might.
But it was good. Like, it's unfortunately, I'm not gonna say too little too late, but, like, they still haven't added enough multiplayer content yet. They were supposed to add a multiplayer-only boss, and I don't think they did. Unless that's not coming into play until tomorrow, because tomorrow is their weekly reset. So maybe they'll add that in tomorrow so that, like, people didn't have to rush to do it or I don't know. But, like,
I guess you'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. But, like, it was good. It was good content. She's fun to play as. And, like, I'm still happy with my purchase, even though it took them 3 months to release her. I'm happy with my purchase because they added new content for free. Literally, I spent $70 on this game, and I got free stuff 3 months later. And I think Clint, like the Hawkeye stuff, is supposed to come out in January. They said early 2021.
I think it is supposed to be January. It's just not confirmed.
Yeah, so like maybe at this point they're gonna start doing the monthly releases now that they have the game not broken anymore. Like the game works. There's no like extreme terrible bugs. Like I looked up the patch because it was a pretty big patch. It was 14 gigs. And like all the new features are just Kate Bishop and her storyline, a high contrast mode. Apparently they gave the ability to enable and disable takedowns, which makes no sense why you would do that. If you hurt the enemy enough and they're stun bar enough, you can hit triangle and circle to do takedown attacks. I don't know why you would remove that. Especially if you're playing as Captain America, who does nothing but takedowns. His ultimate Brooklyn Brawler, when you pop it, if the enemy is half health or less, he can do a takedown. And takedowns don't automatically kill, they just do a lot of damage. And as Brooklyn Brawler, if you do a takedown, you add 3 seconds to your Brooklyn Brawler buff. And every time Captain America does a takedown, they drop a heroics orb so that he can recharge his heroics abilities, his special abilities. So Captain America can essentially stay in Brooklyn Brawler forever, and once it ends, just repop it. It's like kind of broken, but still freaking amazing. I don't know why you would disable takedowns. But then they just fixed a bunch of issues, and they didn't necessarily add like any new stuff, like any new modes or anything like that. It looks like I don't know. It was weird because they did say they were supposed to be adding a multiplayer only boss fight, and it doesn't look like they have yet. But it was good. It was good content. I enjoyed it. I'm hoping that they start like producing more stuff on a monthly basis. Get it into the into where they wanted it, because where they left the story is also kind of on a cliffhanger. And I want to know more. This is a really compelling story.
Yeah, no, that's good. Like, I'm glad that they're keeping the content interesting.
Yeah, and it's, so, like, now I'm back to, like, the normal daily play of do the daily challenge cards. Like, I've barely done the endgame content because you don't really need to. It takes too long, and the rewards are useful, kind of, but not super useful. Like, it's 100 upgrade cubes, that's great. That's needed to upgrade your armor, and it's it's a guaranteed exotic piece of equipment for the character you complete it with. But in order to complete it and get that exotic piece of equipment, you have to play 8 hive missions, which each hive mission has 6 floors. So it's just like, it takes a while. I haven't tried it on the PS4 yet, so it might not take as long because the load times are much better. And they are so significantly better on the PS4 than they were on or PS5 than they were on a PS. And like one cool thing as well is like they did add some new and more interesting environments. Like they were kind of just reskins of known and previously seen environments, but the reskin made it look fresh and nice. So like I hope they keep pushing that stuff in.
Nice.
Yeah, but Kate Bishop, she's really fun to play as.
If only the rest of the game would get there.
Well, just because you don't like brawlers doesn't mean others don't.
I mean, I'd say there's some compelling evidence a lot of people didn't like that game.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Look, you like it, and I'm actually glad that you enjoy it. Like, this is not a Monster Hunter case where it's like, no, that, like, I think that game's stupid, and I don't like that you like it. Like, I'm actually glad that you enjoy the game, and from what I hear, the story was actually entertaining. So, like, that's what...
Yeah.
At some point when the game is cheap enough, I want to just experience the story.
Yeah, and the problem is, like, I think more so the post-game gameplay loop. Because they, like, Destiny had, like, the like, every other month or whatever, they release some new content or something like that. Or, like, I friggin' played, Final Fantasy XIV, but wouldn't play for 3 months at a time. Because, like, new content only dropped every couple of months, and the stuff I liked were the content drops. I didn't care about the PvP and stuff like that. Like, the thing that sucks about this game is, like, I don't really know if there's a viable way to do a PvP, and they haven't released a lot of the, like, end game, like multiplayer content that they promised, like raids and things like that, which is lowering the gameplay base. Like, I want to be able to play this game more with friends, but there's no reason to play with friends because I can do it all on my own. Like, there's no multiplayer necessary. And when they did throw in something that was a multiplayer only feature, the rewards weren't worth it. And it was like too late for that because a lot of people already had their characters at max level and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's kind of a weird catch-22 of, like, do they make a lot of stuff need multiplayer to get, like, interesting or to get through it all?
Well,
versus balance it all for single player, and then, yeah.
But, like, the way they're doing it is, like, the Kate Bishop's campaign is single player. Like, you can play it with people, but it is single player. And they have it separated with the campaign and then what they call the, quote, Avengers Initiative, which is, like, a separate, like, load screen for the endgame content that, like, it can all be done single player and only a select few things are multiplayer only. But that's only one thing, and, like, I would really like to do this stuff that, like, kind of doesn't really matter, but play it with my friends to get this better equipment, but it's not released. And that's what's, like... That's what's kind of, I feel like holding this game back is that there is no real need for multiplayer at the moment. But once that comes out, I think more people will come back to it.
And you might be right. I just know a lot of what I was seeing, like, around the time the game come out was, like, people really into the story and really not into the gameplay.
If I remember correctly, I saw a lot of not really into the endgame game, which I can understand.
No, like, a lot of, like, the podcasts and stuff I was listening to and stuff I was reading, it was, people are just like, yeah, the game is fine. Like, the story's interesting, though. Like, I want to see more of the, like, that, but, like, the actual combat was just turning people away because of, like, those missions where you had to, like, stand on a spot and beat robots as they came at you and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's, like those are some, like, the worst, objectives. They would be so much easier with other people.
Yeah, like, and, like, it was enough to, like, turn a lot of people away from the game. It's just like, yeah, it's like the follow missions in Assassin's Creed games or, like, escort missions in anything. Like, if you do it more than once, people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so BioWare had some changes. Casey Hudson and Mark Dura have both left.
I don't know who those are.
Damn it, Rich. So both of them have been with BioWare for over 20 years. They both started in the late 90s. Hudson is he was the creative director for the original Mass Effect trilogy.
Okay.
And then, Mark Dura is, he was the lead programmer for the Baldur's Gate series. And he has been, like, an executive producer on, like, the Dragon Age games. Specifically, the articles I read mentioned Dragon Age Inquisition, so he was involved in the next Dragon Age game too.
Mhm.
And Hudson was most likely involved in whatever Mass Effect is going to eventually be. The funny thing here is Hudson left already once. So he left BioWare in 2014 and was briefly the creative director for Microsoft Game Studios, but then came back to BioWare in 2017, and he worked a lot on Anthem, which we all know how well Anthem did.
Yeah.
So both of these guys released like statements on the BioWare blog, and then somebody from EA also released a statement basically like, you know, these studios are still in good hands. Here's all the people that are still like leading the charge over there. They mentioned like that, like whatever the next Dragon Age will be, like the Mass Effect Legendary Edition that's coming out in the spring. Not once was Anthem mentioned as like a game being worked on anywhere. The only time the word Anthem appeared was when Casey Hudson listed some of the games that he had worked on with BioWare over his 20-year thing with them.
Yeah.
So just makes me wonder like where that game is with them, you know, wanting to basically rebuild it from the ground up.
I mean, they've been, I don't know, like I haven't really been following Anthem too much. I do, like they were trying to rebuild it from the ground up originally, right?
Well, I mean, once it launched and was awful, they basically said, yeah, we're going to have like, they were going to No Man's Sky it. Like it was being called Anthem Next, I believe. And like there's been a few mentions of it here and there since last year, but nothing major. And now when EA comes out and it's like, yeah, like all your favorite BioWare franchises are still like in good hands. They don't mention the game that like BioWare was apparently putting a whole bunch of resources behind for at least a period.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
so
who knows? And I wouldn't say as much they were doing a No Man's Sky as much as maybe a Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I guess that Final Fantasy 14 would definitely be a better analogy there.
Yeah.
So this next one, probably don't have a lot to say about it, but I thought it was interesting. There was kind of that mysterious Square Enix game announced on Project Athea. It's been revealed now that it is going to be a console exclusive for PS5 for at least 24 months.
That's weird. Like, 2 years is a long time to be exclusive.
Yeah. Especially, like, Square Enix has a pretty good relationship, I feel, with both sides. Like, Microsoft funded the second Tomb Raider game. Or, like, co-funded it.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that they went, like, that hard into the console exclusive area.
But, like, 15 is... Or 16. That's console exclusive, isn't it? It's launch exclusive, at least. On
PS5. Yeah, you know, I forgot about that. You're right.
I don't know how long it's exclusive. I don't know if it's temporarily exclusive or just launch exclusive or whatever. But, like, Final Fantasy 16 is only on a PS5. At least at launch. And PC.
Yeah. Yeah. For some reason, like, the Final Fantasy game being PlayStation only, like, I don't know, I still think of that series, really, as a PlayStation series. Because, like, the entirety that I've been playing it, the new games have been released on PlayStation. Yeah. Primarily. I did not play them. I did not play them before the PlayStation 1, so like when I went back and played all of the old ones, like they were just on different platforms that were available at the time.
Yeah, and I don't think it was until Final Fantasy 13 and 15 that it was on an Xbox.
Yeah, and I know, so 11 was also released on the Xbox 360.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't counting 11 and 14 because they're MMO.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
Also, yeah. I mean, in fairness, like, 11 wound up, it was like, what, 5 years later?
Yeah.
That it came out on 360?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of the expansions that it came out on 360.
But, like, it came out and it kind of thrived there for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, yeah, Square Enix is definitely, like, they seem to be dug in pretty deep with Sony, which is good for Sony, bad for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Unless Microsoft ends up buying their own Japanese studio to make those sorts of games.
Which I wouldn't put it past Microsoft to do that.
See, I don't know, because they have Bethesda, so they might just be relying on them for their like role-playing games, which I think is a mistake because like they're such different types of games.
True, and also though the East does not like the Xbox. So I don't know what like Japanese JRPG making company would want to be owned by Microsoft.
Exactly, but like at the same time, if they could get a like, even if they could just form, like, a strong third-party relationship, getting those games to Xbox first could bolster their sales in Japan.
I mean, right now, Microsoft needs anything to bolster their sales because Halo's not being released until fall next year.
Oh, that's right. I completely forgot to add that here. Yeah, like it's right now. It's slated for fall of 2021.
Yeah.
Not surprising. Like, I think we kind of talked about that when it was originally delayed, and like all the people in charge kind of left and like brought in new people. Like, that was not a 3-month delay. That was at least a year delay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it got pushed back again.
No, neither would I.
But I mean, really, like, neither company really needs much at this point. Like, those consoles are selling out as soon as they go up for sale on both sides.
Yeah.
So, like, they're doing fine at the moment. But yeah, like, how the rest of this generation plays out once, like, stock becomes just readily available, that'll be the real sort of telling.
As dumb as this may sound, I feel like it's the backwards compatibility that is really being the console pusher for this generation.
I mean, at the moment it is, because there's no new games to play anyway.
Exactly, but like, my main reason for getting a PlayStation 5 was to play my PlayStation 4 games as like a PlayStation Pro, because I had a launch PS4, and I wanted to be able to go back and play, say, like Final Fantasy VII, or games like that I saw like some graphical and rendering issues, like, and see if I still saw them in like a better, stronger console.
Yeah. So speaking of the backwards compatibility stuff, do you happen to know if when you played Miles Morales, if you were actually playing the PS5 version?
I don't know.
So there's a very good chance you played the PS4 version.
That's lame.
Yeah, so Drew, I don't know if you've been seeing all these things on the internet, because Rich, I know you don't read any of this stuff. But yeah, like, it is not super clear, like, when it downloads the game, which one it downloads. And apparently it just downloads both of them. And you actually have to, like, when you go into, like, the game hub, there's, like, the 3 little dots for, like, more information. And you actually go in there to select which one you want. And a lot of people are saying that for these games that have, like, versions on both consoles, it's defaulting to the PS4 for them. So, like, Black Ops, Miles Morales, and a few others.
That's pretty lame.
Yeah, like, the game's still going to play fine, but you're not going to have any of the actual benefits that you get from, like, the visual fidelity that the PS5 can do.
I mean, I thought the game looked, an update on my controller. I have to do that. I turned on my PS5 to see if I could tell which version I was playing of Miles. So you go to the game, you go to the dots.
I'm actually very curious.
It shows view product. Let's see. I go to the dots and it says PS4 line full line Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Yeah, so you've been playing the PS4 version.
That's fucking bullshit. So how do I get the PS5 version?
I don't know. Like, I don't have a PS5, so I'm not trying to be an asshole. Like, I haven't looked that much into it because I don't have the console to know. All I know is the Xbox just gives me whichever one is best on that system.
That is definitely a nice thing about that.
Yeah, like, the smart delivery is really cool, because games that, like, if I just grab an Xbox, like one game and put it in, if it's been optimized for Xbox One, it's going to just download those patches, and it will show me, like, it'll put, like, a little icon over the game that says, like, Series X optimized or whatever. But yeah, so you've been playing you beat the PS4 version of Miles, which I guess segues us nicely into, Rich, you beat Miles.
Hold on, I'm looking through, this is a bigger library, because if I go into the PS5 games in the store and go down to Miles Morales, and then click the dots, it shows PS4 full Marvel Spider-Man. And it doesn't tell me I have to download or any. I don't know what version I was playing. I'm gonna have to, like, see a side-by-side or something.
Well, can't you go to... Man, I have so barely used, like, features of the PS5. Isn't there a library you could go to and sort by console?
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure there is.
Let's game library, installed PlayStation Plus, your collection, sort by platform, PS5, and if I click the PS5 version of Miles Morales, it shows the PS4 line full line. Oh, yeah, I don't have the PS4 version even downloaded, so it was a PS5 version.
Okay.
So all the articles that I kept reading were it actually was downloading both versions for people. And they had to go in and, like, specify, like, I want to open the PS5 version of this game.
No, it only downloaded the PS5 version. Which, it's weird that it would download both versions. That makes no sense.
I agree, but like, yeah, apparently Sony just really botched that whole thing. Because like, it's not like I saw that once. Like I've seen like tons of Facebook posts about it, lots of stuff on like news sites and everything.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I played Miles Morales. I bought it last week, and I know I didn't really give it any like raving remarks last week. I was just not in it. I was not feeling it. I was kind of pressured into buying Miles Morales, which really frustrated me and kind of turned me off on it more. But after just like
were you pressured into it?
I had somebody tell me that I was sort of in a way tell me that I was an idiot for it not being a launch title that I.
Was it your brother?
No, it was somebody else. And that, like...
I'm kind of shocked it wasn't Eric.
I mean, that sounds like something that Eric would say to you.
And that, like, buying Demon's Souls because it's a game that has already been released in the past was a stupid purchase, and I should have gotten Miles Morales. And even when I told them, like, yeah, but I kind of just played Spider-Man, I don't really have a push to play Spider-Man again. I do want it, and it is a good game, I just don't want to play it right now. He kind of just told me I was wrong and kind of, like, got in my face about it. So that I felt pressure to have to get it. Rather than, I wanted to actually have had gotten Hyrule Warriors. Because I really want that. But I felt pressured into getting Miles Morales that I did. And then I wasn't really feeling it. And then as I got into playing it last week, I started getting into it more and like enjoying. I think it was doing all the tasks and getting all the collectibles. Having that done made me feel a little bit better about playing the game. Because it's an open world game, and it's a daunting thing to think to do all the collectibles. Even with the game being like less than 10 hours long, it was still a lot of fucking collectibles.
I mean, so was the first one. I think from the sound of it, like, if you had gotten this game because you wanted to, you wouldn't have probably had the same complaints.
Yeah, and like, I wasn't complaining about the game. I wasn't feeling it. But when I played it this weekend, and as I got further and further into it, and realized, like, oh, I'm more than halfway through, and I wasn't even trying. Like, that's how short of a game. Like, I kind of, like, made myself actually enjoy, like, actually realize, like, how short of a game it is, and that, like, I need to take it all in. And that's where I started to enjoy it, and, like messing around and swinging around, and noticed all the little subtle details, the differences between Pete and Miles. For instance, Miles is so wild with his web swings that he, like, just randomly, like, misses his swing, or, like, his legs and feet kind of just flail instead of, like, stay rigid, and, like, he'll fall differently. Like, Miles is just so cool to play as. The environment is New York City. It's no different than Spider-Man, except it is wintertime, which I think there was a little bit of wintertime in the original Spider-Man. But this...
Actually, I think they skipped that entirely.
I think winter was when I can't fully remember, but it takes place a year after, Spider-Man.
I think, there's like a big gap of time in that game, like, after, like, everything kind of goes to hell.
Yeah.
And I think they literally use that to skip over winter, because there's never, like, snow or anything in that game.
Yeah, there was snow in this game. Like, there was, like, near the end of the game, it was a full-on blizzard, like, super blizzard, basically. Like, the blizzard was so bad, there was thunder. That's thunder snow. And it was just, like, it looked really nice. It was really cool. They threw an homage to, Stan Lee. It's one of the trophies. You go and find the shop that he was, the store owner of, and there's a statue of him standing up at the shop, which was really nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It was, the combat was fun. It was a lot different because he doesn't have as many gadgets. He only has 4 gadgets, but he also has the different Venom strike abilities. So he can punch, he can do a slam, he can do a jump, he can do a dash, and then he can do an explode with his Venom strike. And it's all based on the button combination that you hit with L2 and one of the face buttons. It's a fun game. I got emotional at the end. Like, it was a quick, short game, kind of. And, like, I wasn't expecting to get emotional with how the ending played out, but I did. Like, I got a little, like, welled up, and it was well done for something that was as short as it was. And, another cool thing that they did, which I didn't even know, they threw in a memorial for Chadwick Boseman at the right at the beginning of the credits.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they did like a For Our King, Wakanda Forever, Rest in Peace, or Rest in Power, whatever they wrote. I can't fully remember, but they did it. I think I might have taken a picture. But they did a memorial for Chadwick Boseman, which I was like, that is really, really cool of them. I wasn't expecting that, which kind of also made me a little bit more emotional as well. Let's see, they wrote, in loving memory of a noble king, Chadwick Boseman, his honor, strength, and compassion will reverberate for generations to come, Wakanda forever. And in the background has the Spider-Man logo behind it. So it was like a nice thing that they did. Really strong story, some cool costumes. One of the ones, if you do all the side quests, and then beat the game, it's the only costume you can get at the end of the game by doing all the side quests. You can go and, fly around with, or not fly around, but swing around with Spider-Man. The cat that lives at Tio's, bodega, and he's in your backpack.
Oh yeah, did you not know that ahead of time?
No, I did not know that you got to swing around with a cat in your backpack.
Yeah, and he wears the mask and everything.
There were 2 missions that, had you go rescue, cats. And then that was one of the costumes at the very end. And, he meows and, shakes his hands. It's so adorable. I love it. I didn't see it before. But
that was all over the internet right after the game released. Or even before it released.
I made sure to stay off the internet and, not look at anything Sean Appleton shared for, until I bought the game, because I wanted to avoid, spoilery things. But yeah, it was a really good game. It was surprisingly short. I almost have it platinumed without even trying again. But you have to play through New Game Plus to platinum it, because
I did hear that.
There are some abilities and costumes that you cannot unlock without playing New Game Plus, which is fine. Again, it is a short game, and now that I have already done everything else, I don't need to do it all again, that I can just play through the story in New Game Plus and get it done.
And at least you don't have to set it to, the hardest difficulty also.
Yeah. So it's it is a game that I'll probably go back to in Platinum, since we've already said there's not a lot of games on the PS5 right now. I'm in the process of playing through Squadrons, the storyline, and maybe gonna try to do some multiplayer, but I'm really bad at even the main game of Squadrons, that I don't know how. I'm gonna be shitty in the multiplayer.
Well, just get good.
I don't know if I can. I'm bad at it. I am really bad at it. But there's also all the PlayStation classics that I want to play, Days Gone. I never got to play that, so I kind of want to try that out, even though I heard it wasn't that great. Then what's it called? The games that you like, Cobb, the Atlas game. Persona.
Oh, Persona.
Yeah. So, I've got a bunch to play, but I'm also waiting until after Christmas to buy myself Hyrule Warriors. Spider-Man Miles Morales. This is a good game. This is fun. If you liked the first Spider-Man game, you'll like this game.
I'm excited to play it someday when PS5 exists in the wild.
Yeah, I mean, you could just get the PS4 version.
I don't want to do that, though, because, I want to see this game on the PS5.
Yeah, I get you. I know a number of people who, the person who kind of pressured me into getting it. I told him, I was like, you could just get it for the PS4, and he's like, but I want it for the PS5, and I'm like, but you could just get it for the PS4, and then you wouldn't have had to kind of be a jerk to me about the fact that I didn't get it. And he's like,
yeah, honestly, if the PS5s don't become a little more available, Q1 of next year, I'll probably just buy the PS4 version of it, because at that point it's alright, me getting one of these consoles is far enough out that, it's not worth waiting anymore.
Yeah.
Which may very well be the case.
Yeah.
Oh, look, they're rebooting True Blood.
Yeah, I saw that.
Fuck?
I stopped watching that when they went on, they drank Lilith's blood and basically went on a drug-induced ecstasy raid.
Yeah, no, that last season was not great.
I stopped,
No, the Lilith thing was the second to last season.
Was it?
Yeah.
When they drank her blood?
Yeah, because then there was Billith in the last season.
Okay. I thought I stopped a lot earlier.
Nope. So that Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake got delayed a couple months. Got moved from January 21st to March 18th.
Yeah.
The studio just needs more time.
Yeah.
Nothing major here. I'm actually looking forward to that game.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bummed that it got pushed out, but I'm glad that they're just taking the time they need to make it right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, hopefully make it right.
Sands of Time was like one of my favorite games back in the day. That like I too don't mind this delay because I hope they do it right.
But yeah, anyway, time for Richie's weekly kaiju section where he's going to talk about the Son of Godzilla.
Oh boy!
And then we'll be wrapping things up.
Oh boy, the Son of Godzilla, guys, did you know there's a movie called The Son of Godzilla?
I do now.
Yeah.
It was kind of so forgettable that I forgot I watched it. But it's not. Yeah. Cobb texted me. What was it? Yesterday?
No, it was today.
Was it today? And asked, "Did you watch Godzilla this week?" And I literally sat there for 5 minutes, like, "Did I? What did?" And then I had to go onto Facebook. I had to go into my images folder and scroll through to find what I watched. And then I remembered as I was scrolling through, fuck, I watched Son of Godzilla. That's not to say it's a bad movie. It was better than Ebra, and it was better than Godzilla vs. Kong. But it is definitely one of the more forgettable movies in the genre so far. But it was goofy and entertaining to say the least. Like, it just had, like, the weirdest like, there was no, like, the world's gonna end. There was none of this, like, oh, we have to save the world from this evil creature. There wasn't even, like, oh, this evil terrorist organization is trying to create weapons, and so they're using chemicals to control a lobster monster. There was none of that. It was straight up, there were these scientists on an island trying to learn how to control the weather, and in doing so, they screwed up their first test, which caused already giant praying mantises to become bigger praying mantises that ended up finding an egg that had the Son of Godzilla in it, and Godzilla came and trained the Son of Godzilla after fighting some of these praying mantises. And then there was a giant spider on the island as well. And it was just like, it wasn't like, it was I guess the first Godzilla movie where it wasn't like, we gotta save the world. It was less we gotta save the world and more just like, oh, we're here and so is Godzilla. Like, we just gotta deal with being here with giant monsters while we're doing our science project. It was like, it was weird. It wasn't, yeah, I don't know. It was just, it was very forgettable. And the fact that, like, Godzilla Jr., Manila is his name, is in the next movie, and I think the movie after that, it's so...
Oh, wow.
He is at least in the next one. I don't know how much further he is, but he's at least in, Destroy All Monsters. He might be in All Monsters Attack. I still haven't figured out how I'm gonna watch All Monsters Attack, because that's not on YouTube like Godzilla vs. King Kong was, and it's not on HBO Max. But the next movie is Destroy All Monsters, where, like, all of the monsters from Godzilla beginning till now are in it. That's what I'm gonna be watching this week, so I'm super excited for this one, because it's actually gonna be, like, kaiju fighting each other again, and it's gonna, like, be interesting monsters, and, like, from what I've read and seen, Godzilla wakes up, like, the end of the movie, they stop both the giant spider and Godzilla and Manila by perfecting their weather control device and causing winter to happen over the island and freezing everything. And Godzilla will awaken in Destroy All Monsters from ice off of this same island. So it follows right after that. Well, yeah, I went into this movie with little expectations because it was following Ebra, had the same director as Ebra, and I was pleasantly surprised at how entertaining it was, but just how forgettable it is.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, hopefully these movies start to tick back up for you.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. I mean, these two movies didn't have, like, widely known Godzilla monsters. Like, Ebra never makes a play in Godzilla ever again. And, Manila is only Godzilla's son in these few movies in this generation. Manila is not Godzilla's son in future generations. Like, from what I hear, I might not even need to watch All Monsters Attack, which is 2 movies from now, because it's like, it takes place all in some kid's head or something like that. It's weird. But like, yeah, I'm hoping they tick up and they're gonna have real monsters again, real kaiju in them, so that's, like, maybe a little bit more of a plus factor to it.
Okay.
Because let's load up the Godzilla franchise wiki and scroll down to the movies. Yeah, the next one is Destroy All Monsters. It's got Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, Agirius, Manila, Kumonga, Manada, Gorosaurus, Baragon, Variant. I don't know who half of those are, but I do know who some of them are. And then All Monsters Attack has this monster called Gabara, and it also has Manila. And then you start getting like more known Godzilla monsters again with Godzilla vs. Hedorah. And then there's Godzilla vs. Gigan, which has Gigan has spikes on his hands. Ghidorah's in it, and Gurius is in it. Godzilla vs. Megalon, which has Megalon has the drills on his arms. It also has Jet Jaguar, who is basically Ultraman. Gigan, Anguirus, and Rodan. So like they're all going back to the kaiju big battles following this movie. So it's hopefully not going to be as weird.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. I'm kind of excited that I'm almost done these 15 movies. But at the same time, I'm kind of upset because I don't know how I'm going to watch the next era, the era after that, or the era after that.
I'm sure you'll find a way.
Yeah, I'll just have to get them on Amazon and pay for them if they're available.
Honestly, you can probably find like some sort of like set of them on like sale at some point and just buy the physical media.
So the next era, which is the Heisei era, which starts from 1984, the Return of Godzilla. There's one of the movies is owned by Miramax. One of the movies is owned by Kraken Releasing. The rest of them are owned by Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, or licensed by Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. And everything after that is licensed by Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, except for, we go all the way to 2016, Shin Godzilla, which is licensed by Funimation. And then the last three in these lists, which are owned by Netflix, they're the shitty CG Netflix Godzilla.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe there'll be some sort of collection, at least for the Sony Pictures.
Yeah, I mean, you can always just look.
Yeah.
Searching doesn't hurt. But I think that is probably a show, unless you have anything else.
No, that's it.
Drew, you got anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, yeah, that's a show then. If you'd like to find more of our content, you can head over to www.one-quest.com. You can also help us out by supporting us at patreon.com/onequest. If you can't support us there with dollars, you can head over to your favorite podcast platform like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, all those different places. Rate us, review us, subscribe to us. All those things help a whole bunch. We are also on social media, facebook.com/onequestonline or at @1_quest on Instagram and Twitter. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/onequestvideo, and you can send us emails to social@one-quest.com. Otherwise, we'll be back next week with something else to talk about. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.